Britain risks its relationship with Israel as it suspends the sale of some arms to the Middle East.
Well, Israel is wasting no time in condemning the Labour government's decision, calling it a reward for Hamas.
The Conservatives rally around Israel as questions are asked why all of this was announced on the same day as the funeral of 6 murdered hostages.
An inquest begins into the death of Steve Diamond, who took his own life after appearing on the Jeremy Kyle Show in 2019.
2 NASA astronauts stuck in space report hearing a strange noise as the pair face an agonising wait to return to Earth.
And as schools return, new research finds that dogs pick up on children's anxiety and could be the cure for academic stress.
As it's revealed, only half of you think you need to be born in the UK to be British. The debate is whether we should celebrate what is deemed to be a great nation.
And it's 3 years this month since the last Bond film was released. So, why the wait?
And in the sport, Jack Draper becomes the first British man to reach the US Open quarter-final since 2016. Manchester United give Erik ten Hag the dreaded vote of confidence. And is it right that the Olympic rings stay on the Eiffel Tower permanently?
If you don't like the humid air that we've had over the last few days, good news. Fresher weather is on the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry everywhere. I'll have the full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
Very good. The time is 1 minute past 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast.
So, Mr. Paul, let's get this straight. The Olympic rings.
Yes.
They're there on the Eiffel Tower at the moment.
Great big Olympic rings.
So why should they stay there permanently?
Well, they like the idea. I think it's the mayor of Paris has said that it continues the Olympic feeling across the city. But apparently the descendants of Monsieur Eiffel, who was the man that built it in the first place, obviously, have said that, no, this is not right. You cannot have the Olympic rings on the Eiffel Tower because it's just not the right thing to do. You just can't have that because it's defacing such a wonderful landmark, which, by the way, I was having a conversation with my son the other day and he said, what is your favourite... We were just one of these conversations we had. He said, what is your most favourite landmark in the world or building in the world? And I came up with, and I said, I think the Eiffel Tower is the most striking thing.
Cool, isn't it? What would I... I've been to Petra in Jordan. That's incredible. That's a good landmark, isn't it? Where it's all cut into the cliffs, all red. And...
What about building, though? Something that's...
It's like buildings. It's like a treasury into the rocks of... I'll show you a picture.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Oh, trust me to go for one.
I tell you what gets me, what I notice more than anything, badly designed buildings.
Right.
Rather than nicely designed buildings.
Daughter of architects, talking to the right girl.
Yeah. I often think it's as easy to build something nice as it is to build something horrible and cheap and ghastly.
Everything's cheap these days, that's the problem.
I think 60s architecture is particularly nasty. And...
But it takes more time. You know, if you look, if you walk through London or you walk through an old city, look up. I used to, as daughter of an architect and as an ex-tour guide.
Oh,
on the left-hand side. Yes.
In London?
Yeah.
On the open-top bus?
That's right, on the right-hand side.
That's your mistake. You should never have given that up.
Listen, I used to get £1.50 an hour with tips.
With tips.
OK, I never used to make any tips, but that's not the point. but that was it. And, you stay on the left-hand side and the right side. Oh, I could tell some tales.
What's your favourite landmark in London, then?
I would say Big Ben. I would say the House of Parliament. It's most impressive when you look at it and it takes your breath away.
I like the Tower of London because I just get excited to think, oh, my goodness, not only were there lots of beheadings and all of that gory stuff, but the crown jewels are there.
Yeah.
And just the history.
Over 1,000 years old.
Absolutely. So that's what...
Well, I should say the Yeoman of the Guard is who you're referring to.
Oh, really, the Yeoman of the Guard? They're not actually a beef eater.
I think you'll find.
Love it.
Paul, we'll see you again at 20 past 6.
That's the first time I've been called out, and I appreciate it.
I thought we should put that throw out there to everybody this morning. What is your favourite landmark, firstly in the UK, and then secondly in the world?
You mean man-made...
A building, landmark.
Landmark.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Let's see what people come up with.
Let's get into the news. The Middle East situation. Britain will suspend immediately 30 of its 350 arms export licences with Israel.
Yeah, this comes after the Foreign Secretary, in a shock announcement, said he was deeply worried by the methods that Israel has employed and by reports of thousands of civilian casualties and destruction of civilian infrastructure. Here's what he said in Parliament yesterday.
For certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
Well, David Lammy stressed that the decision is not a blanket ban or an arms embargo, but the Israeli foreign minister said the foreign secretary's decision sends a very problematic message.
Well, let's get the thoughts this morning from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us from Westminster. Good morning, Catherine. Brave, or are they risking alienating our biggest, strongest ally in the Middle East?
Well, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. It depends who you listen to. Certainly, this has been controversial. Worth saying, I think, straight away, it's only 30 out of 350 arms exports licences that have been suspended. And the UK only supplies some 0.02% of Israel's weapons, which is a tiny, tiny fraction. Of course, nothing like the United States, who have threatened to suspend supply of weapons. But of course, that has not happened. But yes, David Lammy has said, look, we're following on from a review which was instigated by the Conservative government and trying to unpick, whether or not weapons or weapon components, because a lot of these are components, things that are used in fighter aircraft, helicopters and drones, etc., and components in weapons used for hitting targets on the ground, is exceptionally difficult, but they think there is a clear risk. So that's why they have done this. I think worth saying that it's significant, isn't it? Because this is a departure not only from the position of the previous Conservative government, but also from America. In opposition, Labour sat very tightly in agreement pretty much with whatever Rishi Sunak said, whatever they said in the States. So this is suggesting a slight shift. And of course, it comes off the back of Britain has now restarted giving aid to the UN Relief Agency, where it had suspended aid over concerns with links to Hamas. And also it's dropped its challenge to the International Criminal Committee arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. So there's certainly more scepticism. David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, very keen to stress that he still supports Israel's right to defend itself and the right for a two-state solution. Plenty in Labour, of course, on the left of the party, saying that this doesn't go anywhere near far enough. And of course, it comes at an incredibly difficult time, given the deaths of the 6 hostages at the weekend, given the protests on the streets of Israel and the very, very difficult position that Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself in domestically as well as internationally.
Thank you very much indeed. The thing about all of this, of course, is it just about restricting the type of arms that are available or what has been done with those arms so far? The amount of atrocities, whether you agree they're atrocities or not, innocent people have died. Some would say too many innocent people have died. And if Britain has had a role in supplying the arms for that, should we be doing something about it?
Yeah, they're definitely taking a very legalistic approach to so many of the issues facing not only the country, but clearly the world and our allies as well. Is it the right approach? Let us know your thoughts this morning.
We go up to space now, and 2 NASA astronauts are stuck on the International Space Station And we believe the situation, they're due to come down within the next 6 months or so, long time to wait. But we believe the situation is taking a turn for the worse.
Yeah, so here are the details. The astronaut Butch Wilmore has reported that he's heard a strange noise coming from the Boeing Starliner space capsule. Let's have a listen, first of all, to the call that he made to Mission Control in Houston.
There's a strange noise coming through the speaker.
All right, Butch, that one came through. It was kind of like a pulsing noise, almost like a sonar ping.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time, and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go.
A pulsing noise. It sounds like someone's sitting
Scaffolding.
with a hammer banging away there. I'm not sure I would be too confident listening to that. Let's get the take on all of this from space and planetary scientist Andy Lound on this one. Andy, you heard the noise like everyone else there. What did you think, or how worried would you be?
Good morning. Yes, anything that's out of the ordinary, one always gets concerned about, and that's really quite important. And I think Commander Hatfield, former astronaut, has said that if he'd heard something like that, he'd be concerned. Why the ground crew need to deal with it. Hence the idea that Butch Wilmore decided he needed to tell them. The noise is coming from a speaker inside the main space, inside the spacecraft. And you don't normally get any noise coming through that unless something is happening. And the question is what? It reminded me very much of a sound which was heard by the Apollo crews, one of the Apollo crews when they were flying to the moon. And they heard like a woo-woo sound that was coming through their speakers. And it was actually caused by the Apollo spacecraft, the command and service module, which was joined to the lunar module. And when they're joined, they have electrical connections. And that caused an interference on the communications between the two vehicles, which caused a particular sound. And it's interesting that Butch actually commented that the spacecraft, which is actually docked to the International Space Station, because it's docked in this sort of position here, that they are joined together, and it's been up there a lot longer than expected, and it is wondering if there's movement taking place there, which there will be. It goes hot and cold every 45 minutes, so you get expansion and contraction, and whether or not there is some sort of movement going in, which is causing a problem with a connection, a comms connection between the two or not, which is an unusual sound. I mean, I thought your description was very good. Someone banging on it with a hammer, probably from the outside, trying to get in, sort of effect. But it's something that is, again, concerning, because this is a build-up to things which are actually happening after we've got problems with the spacecraft, with the thrusters not working properly, 5 of the 28 thrusters not working, which is leading the astronauts to have to stay on the space station for longer than is actually expected. So it is a concern and something that needs to be looked at by ground control. But the main spacecraft is coming back on its own anyway in a few days' time. So then they'll be able to have a good look at the spacecraft. I don't think there's any immediate danger to crews or anything like that on board the spacecraft, but certainly they need to actually think about what is happening.
I heard some speculation yesterday that it could be haunted, that there could be a ghost on there, which obviously, if you follow the programme at all, you know I'll be very sceptical of that. However...
The ghosts wouldn't worry me. If it was aliens, that would worry me.
Yeah, who knows? The conspiracy theories always abound, don't they, with these sorts of things? But in all seriousness, you say you don't think there's an immediate danger, but obviously the longer astronauts spend time in space, we know the physical toll that takes on them, prematurely ageing them, all the rest of it. Is there any guarantee that after 6 months that they will be able to come back? And what are the long-term consequences for them if that is, prolonged any further?
Well, astronauts have actually, in fact, one of the astronauts which are on board the space station, I mean, there's 9 people on board the International Space Station. It's quite a busy place there at the moment, and I'll have 2 more visiting them in a few weeks' time on a SpaceX capsule. And that SpaceX rocket vehicle actually will bring these astronauts back in February anyway. So they're actually safe bringing them back. There isn't really a problem with that. The last for long duration, one of the astronauts who are on board has got a cumulative time in space of hundreds and hundreds of days. And astronauts have stayed in space for over a year. I mean, as long as you do your physical exercises on the space station, which they do, they have to have. And these are 2 very, very experienced astronauts. I mean, Sunita Williams is a former commander up there. So she's very experienced in what she's doing. She's also done spacewalks. Butch is another experienced man. So you're not dealing with rookies who've gone up there. You're people with extreme experience in space flight. And so they'll know what they have to do to keep themselves fit and healthy. There's regular cargo ships going up to the space station to give them more supplies. And in fact, the SpaceX, which is going up there next, which will actually bring them back, that's going to bring extra supplies up to the spacecraft as well, including personal items. Because unfortunately, as they're going to be up there for 8 to 10 days, they didn't actually bring lots of personal items with them because they didn't think that was actually necessary. But no, there isn't immediate dangers like that. And long-duration spaceflight, these are two experienced people. They know how to handle themselves. They know the fitness regime. And if anything, for the people on board the space station, they've got an extra 2 pair of hands to help do the work and operations on there. So to a certain degree, it could be helpful for the crew on the space station to have these extra people there. The most serious thing from Boeing's point of view is they've got a spacecraft which is being tested and flown to the space station, which has some serious problems with it.
Andy Lodge, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
See, apart from
indeed.
being in a confined space, being not sure exactly when you're going to come home, that sort of noise that is irritating, repetitive, it's enough to send you crazy, I think, those sorts of pressures, all of that.
They need to be sending Sigourney Weaver up there, I would say.
Sandra Bullock, she was the one, wasn't she, that went out and tried to fix everything. Can't remember the film. Anyway, it was a good one, set in space. That's my... Interstellar, the very one. Thank you, Bridget. Oh, anyway, that's my space knowledge. Top to bottom right there.
There we go. What do you make of that? Let us know. Let's have a look at some of the other stories making the news on this Tuesday morning. Head teachers will now be told on a Monday if they are getting an Ofsted inspection that week. This is one of many reforms the regulatory bodies are introducing. That says a new report criticises its response to head teacher Ruth Perry's death, saying Ofsted's reaction was defensive and complacent.
Removing the winter fuel payment for millions of pensioners could increase deaths this winter. That's according to the director of campaigning group Silver Voices. Speaking to GB News, Dennis Reed had this to say.
Policy is so cruel and it will send so many people into fuel poverty this winter and will increase excess deaths as well.
Car makers are rationing the sale of petrol and hybrid vehicles to avoid hefty net zero fines. Industry Insider says it means someone buying a car today might not receive it until 2025 as manufacturers grapple with green energy quotas set by the government.
And Downing Street's resident feline, Larry the cat, has a new companion after Sir Keir Starmer revealed that his family has welcomed a Siberian kitten. The Prime Minister joked the new addition followed a long summer of negotiations with his 2 children as the Starmer family settle into life at number 10. Oh, I'm pleased there's a kitten in the Downing Street flat because there's been dogs recently and I think more cats the better.
But the pussy hasn't got a name.
Not that we know of, but apparently they haven't got a cat flap into the flat because it has to be a bomb-proof door. So it's going to have to be a house cat and so therefore not a direct threat to Larry. But I know that on lots of sort of Westminster bubble, they've all been speculating about what's going to happen when Larry dies because he's been around for a while. So it sounds like they're just doing the peaceful transition of power
So
with a Siberian
Mark
kitty.
II there. Right,
maybe.
Okay. The weather picture. Oh, yesterday was a miserable old day,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Didn't like yesterday. Let's see if today's going to be any better.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the southeast are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, well, we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So a cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving. They'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I love it when people run away with a theme. Everyone's loving the landmarks this morning. I've got to read this one out first. Clark Brown. I agree with Isabel. Petra, little known but once seen, never forgotten. In the UK, Eileen Dunnan Castle in Scotland. Same comment applies. Nigel says Lincoln Cathedral and the Sydney Opera House. And then lots of people choosing an American and British one. So Carol Wiseman saying, my favourite buildings are the Telecom Tower in the UK and the Empire State Building in the USA, and other people saying Big Ben or the Statue of Liberty. That was Darren Prince. Fair selection there. Let us know what
Fair selection. Let us know. Keep those coming in. You're not going to see too many chemist shops about increasingly. Sick people could struggle to get medication. A study shows one or more chemists have shut in 87% of council areas, and that's just over the past 2 years. So are you losing out on a chemist shop, or you find it difficult to get prescriptions? Let us know. So they're doing away with chemist shops, they're doing away with pubs as well. What else are they doing away with?
I thought all the
high street in general.
I thought the pharmacists were supposed to be doing everything that the GPs couldn't do. So if they're shutting them down, how on earth, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Go to A&E?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're being made to do more for not much reward, it seems to be. Just the high streets in general. We're just doing away with shops in general. What is going to become of the world? The Great British Giveaway keeps getting bigger. The brand new competition, we told you yesterday, £36,000 in tax-free cash.
Yeah, that's equivalent to £3,000 a month in your bank account for an entire year. Here's how it could be yours.
This is your...
I'm just looking here, the newspapers are reporting there that the astronauts are hearing mystery pings on board. Why do people not listen or watch or relate to these stories? It wasn't a ping, it was a big thump, and it was repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
Obviously caused by an invading alien who's got on board in the cargo area.
Yeah, much more credible than the ghost theory.
Well, you see, here you go again. You do all that being serious. If I could just be serious for a moment.
Yeah.
You're the sort, when the aliens come, you'll be right top of the list.
Yeah.
So they will be.
I hope I will be when they do come. Right.
She's nice in those ads, isn't she?
Yes, she does, yeah.
Right, so still to come, we've got Paul Coyte. He's got your sport. I hope you're with us right after this short break.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Janis Joplin shot to fame in 1967, but after releasing 3 albums, she was dead 3 years later at the age of 27, having overdosed on heroin.
Yes, very, very brief life, but towering influence. People like Pink in the modern day have said that she is the influence. But she was around so briefly, I guess, burned very brightly and a very troubled soul. And what we've got is A Night with Janis Joplin, the musical. And I think a lot of the problems, it's been getting very mixed reviews, and I think the problem is with this subtitle, the musical. That does it no justice at all.
Really?
It's staggering, stunning in an audience. So what we have is a night with. It's as if she's in concert. She's sitting on the stage, she's swinging from a bottle, and she's singing and giving us little memories, thoughts on life.
I think I see where you're going, because some critics have said it's a fantastic individual performance that sits in an empty vessel of a show.
Yeah.
And you're saying that that's because the expectations of what the show is have been wrong.
Yes, I agree. And I do think that it's obviously a very loving show. There's very little reference to drugs. There's a bit of a throwaway comment. So we don't really look at the demons. What we do is we explore womanhood very powerfully, but also the blues.
How long do we have to see this?
This one it's on until September the 28th. It's on at the Peacock, which is just down by Aldwych in
Quite
London.
a small auditorium, actually.
No, it's a big auditorium. So the Peacock is it's a bit of a barn of a room. And again, I would say this show might be better in a slightly smaller venue, but I cannot recommend the performances highly enough.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here's Paul. Here comes the sport. What have you got, Paul?
I got this. What do you think that is?
What is that?
What do you think that is?
Can I feel it?
Yes, you can. I bought that when I was in Berlin from a market, a street market, and I saw that and I thought, oh, I remember those when I was a kid.
That's a key for a hotel room.
That's what it looks like. There's a number on it,
Yeah.
44.
So why did they used to have the ball bit with the rubber?
You could use it as a doorstop.
No. Do you think?
It's like a doorstop.
Is it because...
So wait a minute, your point is, why is this bulbous bit at the bottom?
Yes, exactly.
Why do you care?
Because I find that interesting.
Do you?
You know what? I remember going to hotels when I was a kid, and all key rings used to have this thing on. Is it because the rubber would bang against the door, so it wouldn't make a noise? Is that what it was for?
Maybe.
I was thinking of buying you one each. I'm glad I didn't.
Oh, that's really sweet.
That was so interesting.
Do you think that maybe Antiques Roadshow will be on the phone? So, Paul...
Why do you, we love you, but that is so random.
Do you think so? It cost me... Well, actually, it was €6, and I said, I'll give you 5.
You bought that in a shop?
No, it was in a market. I had loads of them. €5.
You know what I've taken a fancy to?
Yes.
When I was a kid, I used to get so many lovely toys, and I wish I had have kept them, or my parents had have kept them, whatever. But I'm thinking of getting corgi or dinky cars that I used to have when I was a kid.
Because, you know, they've remade some of them. You can get them in the box, like the Matchbox cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want the originals? Because if you've got an original in a box, they're worth a fortune.
One of the most beautiful things is the Batmobile.
Yes.
At Corgi.
And you could hit the button and then the things would come out the back.
Rockets.
Yeah, I used to have one of those, yeah.
And then the blade came out the front.
That's right. Yeah. And if you put it really close to your face. Yeah. That's another thing, maybe.
Well, any sport going on?
Jack Draper. Should we talk about Jack Draper?
Yeah.
Through to the... You know, anybody young would just think, what, there was a key for a door in a hotel instead of...
Move on.
I know. Jack Draper is through to the US quarterfinals. Straight, and now look, this fella, I think, is in with a great shot.
There's been loads of buzz around him.
I really do.
Now Andy Murray's fully out the way.
Buzz is out, and
really?
I think, and he's a big Manchester United fan, Eamonn, as well.
Is he?
So there's something. So Jack Draper, I think, is in with a chance. And then we look at how we talked about our friend Emma Raducanu and what she did a few years ago. What happened is that it opened up, the drawer opened up, and it looks that way for Jack Draper. So he's got Alex Manel next, boyfriend of Katie Boulter, Australian, who, by the way...
Conflict of interest there.
I know, isn't it? But the thing is, Manel actually tweeted and said, you know, we've never actually played in a Grand Slam. Well, you actually have. You played last year at Wimbledon, but he doesn't remember that. Oh. But I think he stands a great chance. And if he keeps playing the way he is, who knows? So there we are. I'm putting far too much pressure on him already.
UEFA has lowered the cap for away tickets in the Champions League. So tell us about this.
Well, this is good news. This is good news because we know how ticket prices are always going up and saying that when you go to football, a normal family just can't go because it costs so much money. But UEFA, who I've criticised many times over the past few years, have done something good. So they've said that the amount that clubs can charge for away tickets...
Whatever after. I mean, is it travelling on...
Still expensive, but...
Hugely expensive.
Is this because of this? Is this why you're hitting back at this? Because of
no,
this?
but I mean,
right.
UEFA. This is just a money-making racket. This whole...
Yeah, but hold on. No. I know what you're saying, but the thing is, if you run football, they can't decide how much the flights are. They can't decide what you're going to do with you there in your hotel room. But what they can say is, look, the tickets, we will make them affordable instead of when you go over to somewhere and you're having to spend 200 quid for a ticket.
That's right, my friend.
Which I think is good. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing.
I think that's absolutely right.
Good.
What's going on in the Paralympics?
Paralympics, again, another very good day and 6 gold medals on day 5. Ellie Chalice, this girl called Ellie Chalice, absolutely, I watched her yesterday. And sometimes you see something which is just so inspiring and so incredible. And she's an amputee. She's a quadruple amputee. This is a girl who had meningitis at 16 months old. She swam backstroke.
Yeah.
And you would think with hardly any limbs at all, it was so impressive.
And there were no extensions or anything?
No, nothing.
Any artificial limbs?
No. 50-metre backstroke. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
It was... Yeah, and she won gold medal yesterday. So, you know, we'll probably look at her. Hopefully we'll have something a little bit later to show you. But it was so impressive. And this is what the Paralympics is all about.
1,000%.
Now, we did talk about the Open there, the US Open and the tennis and whatever it is. But you want to highlight being a ball girl here and how some of the players can be very rude.
Yulia Putintseva. Now, it was Isabel that mentioned this to me yesterday, and it's just the worst behaviour I think I've seen. What did you think?
I just thought if you're a Russian player, you're already on thin ice given the political situation and how, you know, you've been excluded from lots of tennis.
Well, look at this.
Behave yourself, and she just really didn't.
Look at the ball girl. Now, there we are. There's a ball. No, I'm just going to stare at you. I'm not even going to catch it. No, not good enough. Try again.
And the ball girl sort of shrugging, saying...
And she's like, well, what do you want from me? And it's like, OK, I'll take that, walks away. I think it annoys me enough when I see tennis players being handed a towel and they don't say thank you. You know what I mean?
Started booing her, then Boris Becker and lots of other sort of big names in tennis called her out and she made a public apology. But, you know, Yulia Putintseva, or whatever her name is... Yeah. You know, just have some integrity. I don't know. I'm not sure they should even be there.
Well, this is the apology. I want to apologise to the poor girl for the way I was when we were giving me balls. I think everybody was. Honestly speaking, it was not about her. I was really annoyed, shall we say, that was not the word that was used, at myself by not winning the game from the break point and then got empty with my emotions and deep in my thoughts that I was not even focusing on what was going on and who gives me the ball. That's nonsense. As the ball kids were doing it amazing as always at the Open. She was rude. She should actually go and apologise to her
it's hard
personally.
To be
it was disgusting.
Ball girl in high-level tennis as well. It's highly competitive and skilled, so they should have
a little bit of respect. That's all we ask for. A little bit of respect to everybody else.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Find out what it means.
It's R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Yeah.
you just sang respect.
We just fizzled out.
R-P-S... I always have trouble with that one,
Out of respect, bye-bye.
Thank you, that's fair enough. I agree. I'll take my... I just need a key to go on the end of it, and then I'm sorted. Number 44, your time is up. There we are.
I just can't believe you paid money for that.
Honestly, I thought if anybody would appreciate Eamonn, you would be the one, and that's why I brought it in.
Normally I could see some sense, but I just don't see the
So weird.
sense.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
What are you going to attach it to?
Well, a key. I just don't know which key yet.
Oh,
Anyway.
my.
I can't put it in my pocket because people will look at me really
Coming
strange.
your way with Alex Armstrong and Nikki Hodgson. We're going through the papers in just a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Scottish borders, there are road closures around Kelso until 9 o'clock tonight for stage 1 of the Men's British Cycling Tour of Britain. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed each way between Jamestown and Penally because of an accident. Great Northern Rail services aren't running between Alexandra Palace and Welwyn Garden City because of a faulty rail. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking a quarter of an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25, and nearby on the A21, the southbound exit to the westbound A25 is closed for emergency repairs. In East Sussex, there's a report of an accident on the A23 along London Road with Dean Park in Brighton, and in Devon on the A380 there's a lane closed southbound where a bus broke down with a fuel spill just after the A38 to Splatford split. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In
Just
Berlin over the week.
Funny little things happening there, but very welcome back here. Alex Armstrong, Nikki Hodgson, they've got the newspapers in front of you today. And let's take a look now at some of the front pages that we've got for you. We begin with the Daily Mail. And what is it saying there? It's saying...
It's accusing Labour of running scared over the backlash to winter fuel cuts for pensioners.
Times. The government's decision to suspend the sale of those arms to Israel. This is all about humanitarian concerns. Your views welcome.
Telegraph says petrol cars are being rationed by sellers as manufacturers are forced to meet targets.
Daily Express leads with Kemi Badenoch's warning that the Tories must return to traditional party values and stop acting like Labour, whatever that means.
And finally, the Mirror is hailing the Prime Minister's vow to take action after thousands of Oasis fans were forced to pay eye-watering sums for tickets.
OK. Well, it is strange, this Oasis thing, Alex and Nikki, that everybody's talking about this now. But it is a distasteful practice. I can only relate to airline prices, tickets, and because I do this going back and forward to Ireland, and I see the cost and how much it varies. I mean, it was costing me something last week like 500 quid each way to go to Belfast.
Incredible.
And it's absolutely disgusting, and they get away with it. No one seems to argue about it. Same if you're going to Glasgow, same if you're going to Edinburgh, but pretty bad. But this whole idea of dynamic costing...
It's nonsense, isn't it?
Yes,
it's nonsense. And I'll tell you why, because anyone who... I mean, I'm sure there's thousands of people who try to get these tickets. You sit in a queue, and so you'll see this is the cost, let's say 100 quid for your tickets, right?
Yeah.
By the time you've waited 2 or 3 hours to get to the end of this invisible queue that doesn't exist, it's virtual... Your ticket could end up being as much as £450 from that price, original price. That is incredible. This is a virtual queue, so it's not a real queue. You're not standing in line waiting to buy a ticket. It's all done online, so I don't know how this queue system works. But supposedly it's a bit like an Uber. If everyone wants an Uber all of a sudden, you'll put your prices up because it's supply and demand, right? That's absolutely fine. But in this case, you're just sitting in a virtual queue, and they sort of stagger people in. And as more and more people pile on to get tickets, they put the prices up, which is exactly what happens from the minute you get on there anyway.
And the trouble is that someone who's waited 7 hours and completely ruined their entire Saturday, you then feel...
Right, the psychology of it. I mean, you're in a position where you're vulnerable to the system and you feel like you have to put the money out. I mean, I think the salient point about this story is the fact that the bands themselves can decide to say no to this practice.
They can.
And I know everyone says, well, we don't really know if the Gallagher brothers know exactly if...
They do now.
But they do now, so they've got a choice and they can do something about it.
Well, look, so the big part of this story is that the PMs obviously, got into this and said, right, I'm going to stop dynamic pricing. It's like, OK, I think there's bigger things at hand in the country than Keir Starmer worrying about dynamic pricing. I would like to see this sorted out, of course, but I really don't.
He might have another riot on his hands if he doesn't sort it out, though.
To what end is greed? It's just greed.
It is greed.
Here you've got a sellout concert tour. Everybody's going to leave happy. Everybody's going to make money out of it. And yet we've got this dynamic pricing, which is just really screwing anybody for every cent that they have.
And there's a cost of living crisis. Everyone's skint. You still feel under pressure to go to these once-in-a-lifetime reunion events.
And it's just, I mean, if you're a musician, aren't you doing it to spread joy and love and, don't you want to share your songs with people?
I think this one's a lot about money, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, I do too. It's made me very cynical.
Maybe actually, deep down, the government doesn't want to do anything about it because it's probably good for the economy.
It's certainly good for inflation. Just getting rid of all that money.
I'm not sure about a Labour government.
But the big part of the scandal is Live Nation, the company who do a lot of this stuff, the sponsors of the event. Their revenues are up 32%. That's an extra 2.3 billion. Like, that's a lot of money for a company that basically sells tickets. And I think we've got to start looking at the way this whole system is working on the back end.
Listen, you're obviously, I mentioned airline prices, train prices will be the same, hotel rooms, whatever. I mean, it's pretty disgusting. And that's part of our everyday life, and someone's just looking to get as much as they can for what's... No such thing as a bargain anymore, is there?
No.
Right. Nikki, what about this whole arms deal situation with Israel?
Yes, so Britain has suspended some of its arms sales to Israel because potentially some of the things that are being sold could be used to break international law. So let's be clear, we only provide 0.02% of all arms to Israel as a country, but this is about a principle, and the principle is you can't breach international law, even in defence of your country, and we have to be seen to be doing the right thing, to be part of a world order where there are standards.
So we can kill
we have
people,
to obey them.
but it just depends on what way you kill them.
Well, no, but we can't. If we know, we've got evidence now that Israel's response to some extent has been disproportionate. We've seen so many children killed, camps targeted. It doesn't feel like they are proportionate in their response now to Hamas, this endless quest to find Hamas, to exterminate Hamas. And this war has gone on for far too long. It's nearly a year now, isn't it?
So you're in favour of this?
I am in favour of this, yeah.
I can't see, Isabel, how anybody would be really against it.
Well, there's been a lot of criticism from Jews, from the Jewish community, who think that we're often too soft on Israel is often, and that they have been sort of betrayed, don't they? They say that the West is a big ally for Israel and they have the right to defend themselves. The Tories have come out pretty much screaming exactly that, haven't they?
Well,
saying
of course,
that, also the timing of it, because yesterday, of course, there was the
Well, that was what I was
going
going to say.
Well, the timing was very poor.
The optics were very bad.
But back at Parliament.
Of course, but the argument is that if we don't support Israel with arms, then we let Islamists, not Islam, Islamists win in this, the battle against the West. But this is not how principles of international law work. You have a standard, they are set, you have to obey them to set an example for other countries.
Are not Islamists,
no,
are they?
Of course not. Children are not anything.
It's easy to oversimplify it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I think this is really difficult because this is a situation that's gone for a very, very long time. This war's gone on for a very long time, as you rightfully said, Nick. It's gone on for too long, in my opinion. I think there's a really delicate balance to be found with our international responsibilities and our allies. And I know Israel's very angry about this, particularly literally the couple of days after all these hostages have been shot dead. They're saying, you're meant to be our friends, you're meant to be our allies. We've always supported you, now you're turning your backs on us. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, there's an argument to be made that we should obviously always respect international law, but obviously Israel as an ally to our country will feel this as a betrayal.
Is in crisis. I mean, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
We see the biggest strikes and protests since the whole event on October the 7th. Over the weekend.
Netanyahu, I don't know how long he's got left.
And reportedly
a few weeks,
stand-up fight last Thursday. And then you've got Biden coming out yesterday saying, actually, really, Israel could be doing more to try and bring peace. So feels like
it's not so much the arms as what they do with them and how they use them and who they kill with them. And because you could always argue, they were attacked first and you have to have something in defence. But there we are. It's a moral and economic dilemma, the whole thing. Alex, let's talk about petrol cars. Now, what is the situation? I remember they did a big push for diesel, saying diesel was more environmentally friendly, which I knew at the time it wasn't, and anybody knew anything about cars knew that it wasn't. And now they've gone in reverse, and then it's okay to push petrol cars, but then this breaches the target set in terms of being green machines, and they're not. So it's all about electric cars, which I did drive a couple of weeks ago. Was very, very impressed with it. Very impressed.
Yeah, cool cars.
I've driven one before.
No, I haven't actually. I've never driven an EV. I think they're impressive cars, though. I think they're pretty cool. The big scandal about this, though, this is the really interesting bit, is that you've got people who want to buy cheap petrol cars, and manufacturers can't make them. They've got this mandate, this zero-emission mandate, which I didn't really know too much about, if I'm being honest with you, but I had heard about it. And that means that if they go a single bit over this quota, the manufacturer's charged £15,000 per car, basically, over the quota, which is a lot of money for a manufacturer, put them out of business. And this year, that quota is 22% EV. That means if you don't hit that, or you go over that petrol car limit, you're going to get that fine. And these massive resellers are saying that we've got this demand, and people don't want these EVs. We've got a demand for petrol cars. There's a cost of living crisis. Electricity is expensive, and these EVs are expensive, and we can't sell them.
And people don't know what they're going to get in terms of residual values on cars,
or just charging.
That's what I was about to say. That there just aren't enough charging points.
No,
and you need to know where to drive. Exactly.
It's not ready.
No. The only two spaces that are ever always free outside this building are the electric vehicle ones where you can charge your car. And I look at it every day, going, "Oh, well, I can't park there." But I do think I look forward to a time when they're affordable and that they have a better reach, because the sound is so much lower. I live near a busy road. So it'd be nice to have quieter noises.
Well, that can kill you. because people don't hear them coming.
Well, on the motorway, you're pretty much not going to be walking. So
They have. Do you know they put fake sounds in the EVs to make so you can hear them, which I didn't realise they had to do, but they do have to do that. Yeah.
And also just obviously the air quality would be nicer for people living in cities. So
I don't think many people are against it. I think there's just got to be a sort of common sense because
it's always to do with how it's brought in and at what speed.
Let capitalism work itself out is what I always say. I know you'll disagree with me, Nikki, but I think we should let the market solve itself. Okay, not on that phone. No, I'm not.
You can't cherry pick which bits of capitalism you like, Alex.
Why not? Why not, Isabel?
Profits first.
Why not?
So, Nikki, that brings us to the front page of the Daily Star. Clarkson on real reason the Grand Tour is ending. The world's a bit too dodgy to go driving.
I mean, this just sounds like what happens when you get old. You get a bit scared of life and you start thinking, oh, I could go out to the pub, or maybe I'll just have a pint at home because you don't know who you're going to meet down there. It's kind of that sort of argument. And Clarkson going on about... years ago they drove from Iraq into eastern Turkey into Syria. OK, maybe he's got a genuine point about the world order, but it's not that... Has the world become more dangerous or has the danger just shifted? I don't know. It just sounds kind of like the ramblings of someone who isn't allowed to...
on this Grand Tour and Top Gear. I mean, of course, you're looking for trouble.
Well, and obviously we've seen what's happened, in terms of safety over the past 10, 20 years with Top Gear. I mean, I think that's the issue. It's how they treat the people that work for them. It's not actually thinking about global safety.
Didn't they drive a vehicle through, they painted it with LGBT flags or something and drove it through a really conservative town in America? I think they did that, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they do like to antagonise people. But I mean, I love the show for that, sometimes for that reason, because I quite like provocative TV. I think everyone can enjoy that every now and then. But I think it's a bit rich for him to say it's too dodgy, isn't it?
I think if I lived in Diddley Squat Farm... in beautiful honey-stoned Cotswolds, I wouldn't want to go anywhere else either.
Maybe not.
If you watch Clarkson's Farm, it's just the most idyllic life, really, isn't it?
Totally. So
there you go.
I can see why.
Front page of the papers, Conservatives need to stop acting like Labour, Nikki. What does this refer to? In what ways are the Conservatives acting like Labour?
Well, so this is Kemi Badenoch, who's obviously putting a bid in to be leader of the Tories, and this is kind of a speech that she's given because she's trying to say, I would be different if you put me in charge. She's obviously somebody who's vehement about the war on woke. I use it in inverted commas because I don't think it's... I don't agree with her that it's actually a threat to Britain. But what she's really talking about as well is things like tax, immigration, back to these kinds of key points in any kind of Tory manifesto where you know what you're voting for and you know what you'll get, which is low immigration, low taxes, free market economy, this kind of stuff. And she's trading on the fact that she's an engineer by trade and engineers are honest, so therefore I'm honest.
Sounds like a Rishi Sunak mathematics thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't buy all this nonsense, but I do think the Tory party moved too far to the left. I don't think people really recognise what it was in the last election, and therefore they didn't really see a choice when they were voting between... That's why their vote collapsed, didn't it? That's why Labour actually won. It wasn't a surge in support for Labour.
Why Labour needed to do nothing.
Well, they did nothing. They didn't. They won it on the collapse of the Tory vote because people don't recognise a party that's the highest tax, high immigration. It's not what the Conservatives are about.
What Kemi Badenoch is proposing doesn't sound that dissimilar to what Liz Truss was proposing, but unfortunately the economic circumstances just don't allow to lower taxes.
No,
that's true.
How are you going to do these conservative things? And it sounded to me, if you compare and contrast her with Mr Cleverly yesterday, he had loads of concrete policies. He wanted to cut stamp duty, reinstate the Rwanda deal, 3% of GDP on defence. He had policies. She had a lot of ideology.
I agree.
And I think, actually, what does she actually want to implement?
Well, it's very hard to know, and there's a lot of hot air. She's a very good speaker.
She's very popular.
She's charismatic. She's popular with the members, but this is all about her personal bid for the leadership. It's not about the Tory report.
Guys, thank you very much indeed. See you again in 40 minutes' time. Right now, you're going to see Aidan McGivern, and he's got the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the southeast are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, well, we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So a cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving. They'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Scottish borders, there are road closures around Kelso until 9 o'clock tonight for the Men's British Cycling Tour of Britain. On the M6 in Cheshire, the outside lanes closed southbound between junctions 17 and 16 near Crewe. It's slow towards and past there. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed in both directions, southwest of Tenby, between Jamestown and Penalley after an accident. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour now in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Nearby on the A21, the southbound exit to the westbound A25 is closed for emergency repairs. In East Sussex, there's a report of an accident on the A23 on London Road in Brighton, southbound near to Withdean Park. And in Devon on the A380, there's a lane closed southbound where a bus is broken down with a fuel spill just after the A38 at the Splatford split.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
How would you like an extra £3,000 in your bank account each month for an entire year? Well, it could be yours with our £36,000 secret salary to be won. You'll get £36,000 in cash to do whatever you like with over the coming year. And the best news? It's totally tax-free, which means you'll get every penny to spend. For a chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one...
And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, a very good morning to you.
Labour is accused of helping terrorist group Hamas after confirming it will end the sale of some arms to Israel.
So the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, he faces widespread backlashes from MPs, including Conservative leadership hopeful Robert Jenrick, who called the move shameful.
Well, that's as tensions in Israel have reached fever pitch as people take to the streets to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
An inquest begins into the death of TV contestant Steve Diamond, who took his own life after appearing on the Jeremy Kyle Show in 2019.
Two NASA astronauts stuck in space report hearing a strange noise as the pair face an agonising wait to return to Earth.
Schools back. New research finds dogs pick up on children's anxiety and could be the cure for academic stress.
And it's revealed only half of us think you need to be born in the UK to be British. So we're debating whether we should be celebrating our great nation.
3 years this month since the last Bond film was released. So why the wait, with the exception of me not being available, that is. And in sport, Mr. Paul?
Really? Are you still not available?
No, I'm out buying key rings.
Holmes. Anyway, and in the sport, Jack Draper becomes the first British man to reach the US Open quarterfinals since 2016. Who was that? Manchester United give Eric Ten Hag the dreaded vote of confidence, and another 6 gold medals for Team GB at the Paralympics yesterday.
If you don't like the humid air that we've had over the last few days, good news. Fresher weather is on the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry everywhere. I'll have the full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
The time, 1 minute past 7. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and we love having you with us here on GB News Breakfast.
Indeed, it is very strange that you say we love having you here, because there's a person out there who loves having us there. This is from Pam. Good morning, Pam. It's her son Andrew's birthday. My son Andrew, who has Down syndrome, is 42 today. Andrew, congratulations. He watches GB News with me every morning, and he especially likes listening to Eamonn.
Oh, and Isabel, it says, actually.
Where?
It says it on there. And I have to say, Andrew, we're almost birthday twins. I'm also September birthday, and I'll be 42 in a few weeks. So there we go. That's great to know. Thank you so much for tuning in and reaching out to us this morning as well, to you, Pam. So thanks for your company.
Are you only 42?
Oh, stop it.
No, are you?
Again. Not yet, actually. I'm 41.
Gosh.
See, I'd ask, what is the date, so I can make sure that we remember.
I wouldn't
When
expect you to do it. It's on a Sunday, so you won't need to worry.
Oh, OK, thank goodness.
But we've got to know the date, because you know what you'll be like. You'll just be huffing.
29th of September, since you asked.
29th.
And it's also my 10-year wedding anniversary, 2 days before, on the 27th.
United against Tottenham.
Oh, my goodness me.
Team outing!
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness me. Well, there's an excuse not for remembering.
Right, so I've got to put in Isabel's birthday, but we'll not remember because there's a big match on.
Yeah.
Isabel's birthday, right.
Isabel's
See, we'll both be talking to you, but we probably won't be talking to each other that day.
Well,
so
I'll
anyway.
be there to cheer you all up on the Monday morning.
OK, great.
No, I think we should actually go.
I think it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think we should
Is it
actually
home
go.
or away?
It's at Old Trafford.
Oh, that sounds like a threat.
Oh, so.
Well, you know what? Ruby's going to university. She starts at Manchester in a week, so I can see her, spend most time with you watching the football, and then maybe I can pop in and see my daughter as well.
Perfect.
And my youngest son lives there.
Well, it's all sorted.
The trouble is, he thinks he'll have my tickets that weekend.
Oh, does he?
So I've got to break the bad news to him.
Fine.
That you'll be there.
OK.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to start sowing the seed now?
No, don't worry.
I think the seeds just started being sown.
I'm the boss and I pay for them. So
OK, fine. That works great.
Right, OK. Britain will immediately suspend 30 of its 350 arms export licences with Israel. This is what's leading the news this morning.
Yeah, but this comes after the Foreign Secretary David Lammy said he was deeply worried by Israel's conduct in Gaza. Here's what he said in Parliament yesterday.
For certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
Well, the former Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps, has said that the suspension was akin to student politics and a gut punch amounting to punishment for Israel.
Well, let's cross over to Westminster, where our political correspondent Catherine Forster is standing by for us. So we're hearing that from Grant Shapps, who's obviously no longer in Parliament, but Robert Jenrick, hopeful to take over the Conservative Party, calling this action shameful. So is he right, or is this actually a brave move from a party that are quite intent on following laws?
Well, there's a huge number of different opinions on this action. It's certainly extremely contentious now. The Israeli Defence Minister has said it's deeply disheartening. We've heard widespread condemnation from the Conservatives, Robert Jenrick, as you mentioned, and many others. Some disquiet within Labour itself, and Labour Friends of Israel have said that it risks encouraging Israel's enemies. Also, the UK chief rabbi has said that this action beggars belief, especially, of course, given the timing of this announcement as Israel buries those 6 hostages killed at the weekend, and Benjamin Netanyahu comes under huge amounts of pressure domestically as well. But on the other side, plenty of people saying that this doesn't go far enough. Aid charities such as Christian Aid, Oxfam, say it's nowhere near adequate. The UK Muslim Network says that UK must end its complicity in war crimes committed in Gaza. So a huge range of opinion. I think it is worth saying the government has only suspended 30 out of 350 export licences. We supply a tiny, tiny fraction of the arms that Israel has. So it's a symbolic gesture in some ways. It's not going to have any major impact for Israel on the ground, but it is interesting because the government, Keir Starmer, before he came into government, Labour stuck very firmly to the official position that Rishi Sunak took and that Joe Biden took in America. This is a bit of a divergence, isn't it? And we are the first of Israel's huge allies to take this step. So I think it is interesting. It's certainly very contentious, but the Foreign Secretary says, look, we're just following on from the results of a review that was commissioned by Rishi Sunak, and he says there is a clear risk that there may be a serious violation of international humanitarian law. So the government basically saying, look, we're doing this with a heavy heart, but we simply don't have a choice.
OK, Catherine, thanks very much. I wonder if I could just quickly ask you, whilst I've got you, about some comments that Angela Rayner made yesterday in Parliament. Busy day, of course, first day back for the MPs. She was asked repeatedly about possible changes to council tax coming up in the future. It was obviously ruled out pre-election that they were going to make any changes. But she actually appeared to dodge any questions about whether perhaps they might scrap the single-person discount, which currently exists, which is 25% off. A huge number of our viewers and listeners will be very concerned about this. What more can you tell us about that?
Yes, I think it was interesting that she did not answer that question specifically. And of course, if you live in a house on your own, you are entitled to this 25% discount off council tax. Now, that can be hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It can make a big difference to many people. Now, the government had said there were no plans to increase council tax. But of course, the government said there were no plans to increase taxes on working people. And although we know they're not going to increase income tax or VAT, that tax rises, frankly, are coming. It's been signalled repeatedly that the budget is going to have very painful choices coming. So I think we won't know basically until October the 30th. But the fact that it hasn't been closed down suggests perhaps that it is something that they might be considering.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you very much indeed. 9 minutes now past 7 o'clock. Back to school, of course. And feelings of stress and anxiety tend to be quite normal for a lot of kids. And if it's normal for the kids, then it affects the parents as well.
Well, it seems that our canine friends could be the cure after new research by the University of Bristol found that dogs are incredibly sensitive to their owners' emotions. OK,
how do we cheat into this? How can your doggy help your family handle stress during this time of the year? Let's go to the Director of Canine Affairs at Guide Dogs UK, Tim Stafford. Tim, we're talking about this as if it's a big revelation, but obviously, you know, a man like yourself, you're well used to this, and you can see when a dog is reacting. What form would that reaction take, do you think?
Yeah, you know what? It's nice when the science kind of confirms what most of us have known for a very long time. Our dogs become members of our family and they come very, very close to us. So it's no surprise that anything that goes on in the family is going to be detected and picked up by the dog. That can be changes in behaviours. It can certainly be the dogs watching our behaviours and starting to mirror those behaviours. But what this research says is that the dogs can actually smell our emotions. It's not just that they're responding to our behaviour changes, they're responding to our physiological changes as well, because we smell differently when we start to get anxious. So at this time, there's lots of changes in a lot of families' lives. Kids are going back to school, young people are going to university, parents are having to deal with all of the emotions attached to that. So it's no surprise that our dogs start to detect that too.
Amazing. I just think we should all try to understand this a bit more. There should be more research into this, because the intuition, these people, and Tim's saying, they actually smell a difference from your hormones.
I mean, look, the research is into dogs, but as a cat person, you know, I know for sure that animals and cats in my family life have always gone a long way to cheer people up when they're feeling sad, or if they're anxious, you know, cuddle with the cat has been great. Maybe that's, who knows, maybe that's why the Prime Minister has decided to buy a kitten as well. The power of animals, it's easy to dismiss it, isn't it? But actually, in an increasingly stressful world where we're feeling sort of technical overload and all the rest of it, they're almost more important than ever.
It works both ways. You can have the positive and the negative emotions. So if you become aware that you're actually feeling stressed and anxious, spending some time with your dogs, and probably your cats as well, can just help to ground you, help to calm you down. By calming you down, you'll calm your dog down too. So there is that, it's almost like telepathy, but it's actually linked to the physiological changes in your body. So your heart rate will change, your dog's heart rate will change. All of those good hormones will start to take over from the stress hormones. So really it's a case of being self-aware, and then doing something positive about it. So that can help the children as well. Spending some quiet time with the dog before they go to school can be really good for both the dog and also for the children too.
Petting it, talking to it, playing with it. I just would like to know, you know, how you approach a 14-year-old and say, you know, calm down, this will be quite good for you, when they feel their whole world is ending and whatever. It's a delicate process. There's no doubt about, you know, what you're preaching, what you're talking about here, what you have experienced is a thing. It's convincing other people it is a thing and it can do them some good.
Yeah, it can be as simple as going for a walk with the dog, playing in the garden with the dog. You don't have to make a big thing about this at all.
Trying to get a teenager to walk a dog, now that would be a good task in itself.
Well, maybe for some, but maybe for some. But I think it's certainly one of those things that you can kind of just be aware of in the background, and then perhaps as a parent or a guardian, you start thinking about it and starting to direct people to more positive things that they can be doing to help them.
And even those people who don't have dogs, there's definitely been the rise of the emotional support dog in my lifetime. I mean, I never heard of dogs in schools when I was growing up, but now in the last 2 schools my kids have been in, there's a resident dog. You know, it goes around the classrooms. There's a support teacher that, you know, probably on a voluntary basis goes around, and the dog's adored by a whole school. And it's nothing but positive.
Yeah, as you say, the difference straight away when you actually see how kids, they're not thinking about this, and then they burst into a big smile or laughter
just
or
brings
whatever.
Joy.
And joy, and that is a beautiful thing. Anything, Tim, you'd like to leave people with, you know, how to manage stress with an animal, or are there any tips that you would suggest that embark on this if you want to develop this whole relationship?
But particularly at this time of year, when the routines for so many families are changing fundamentally from the summer holidays, that has a really big impact upon the dogs themselves and obviously on the family as well. So trying to establish a routine as quickly as possible so that both the dog and the family get into their new routine, whatever their new routine looks like for them. And then as a family, go out and enjoy time. You know, that includes your canine members of the family as well. Try and include them. Try to make fun times a good time with your dogs as well. And certainly exercise, getting out in the natural world. That's good. That's good for everybody. You know, taking your time, getting away from your smartphones, taking away from your phones, and getting out there and just enjoying the natural world. And your dogs can be a great introduction to that natural world and experience life through their nose, literally.
Good man, Tim Stafford. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Tim is Director of Canine Affairs at Guide Dogs.
Dogs are clever, aren't they? I mean, they can smell drugs, they can smell cancer, they can smell COVID, they can smell stress. It's amazing. I do wonder what the toll is sometimes on them if we're overloading all of our stress onto these little furry things. We've got to look after their welfare.
They can get depressed as well.
Depressed dog is nothing more depressing than a depressed dog, is that?
No, but it is a lovely thing just to enjoy it. Remember, adopt, don't shop. There are plenty of dogs out there that need to be rescued and need homes for that, and it'll be the best thing you ever do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And enjoy it.
Right, at the time 7:16, time to look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And head teachers are now to be warned on a Monday if they'll be getting an Ofsted inspection that week. It is one of the many reforms that the regulatory body is introducing. That's as a new report has criticised its response to the head teacher Ruth Perry's death, saying that Ofsted's reaction was defensive and complacent.
Removing the winter fuel payment for millions of pensioners could increase deaths. That's according to the director of campaigning group Silver Voices. Speaking to GB News, Dennis Reid said this.
Policy is so cruel and it will send so many people into fuel poverty this winter and will increase excess deaths as well.
Car makers are reportedly limiting the sale of petrol and hybrid vehicles to avoid hefty net zero fines. Industry insiders say it means someone buying a car today might not receive their vehicle until 2025 as manufacturers grapple with green energy quotas that have been set by the government.
And we were talking about dogs. Here are cats. Downing Street's resident feline, Larry the cat, has a new companion. Sir Keir Starmer revealed his family welcomed a Siberian kitten. Is that a breed? Or
yes, they're very furry and quite large, a bit like a Maine Coon.
Right.
Yeah, they're great.
So he joked that the new addition followed a long summer of negotiations with his two children as the Starmer family settled into life at number 10.
Haven't announced the name yet, have they,
No.
of this cat? I wonder if we should come up with some ideas for the kitten of what this Siberian kitty cat should be called and put it out to our audience this morning. Any good kitten names, send them in. Starmers might like some advice.
TC.
What would that be?
TC. Top cat.
Ah, of course, TC. OK, that's your submission.
Yeah.
I'll have to think on mine. I think it was a good decision not to go for the dog because the two boys wanted an Alsatian.
Oh, yeah.
But after tough negotiations, they went for a Siberian cat, which is basically like a dog in a cat's body. Send us your name ideas. GB News.
It's basically like a dog in a cat's body.
Yeah, they're sort of like, you know, really keen and eager and like, I think they
massive.
can even fetch, and they're massive, yeah.
OK, the weather picture out there, let's get out and about. Aidan, what's it going to be like?
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the southeast are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, well, we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, Mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So a cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving. They'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just imagine how many cats or dogs you could buy with this Great British giveaway. £36,000 worth.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Mm.
But it depends. I mean, you say, I mean, if you adopt a dog, you're only going to pay 50 quid or 80 quid or something like that, you know, as opposed to, I mean, I know it can cost thousands to buy a dog.
Some people pay that, or a cat, yeah. Mine was 200, my little kitten.
But the thing about dogs that you have to buy, so many of them, I mean, these pure breeds, they pick up a lot of conditions and health issues, and their life is longer than a mongrel. I mean, my little mongrel is 16 now.
Oh, Maggie.
Yeah. And you know, I was looking at her the other day, and she's become
bit grey.
Bit grey beard.
Oh, yeah. She's old now.
Yeah.
Oh, bless
There's
her.
a lot. I didn't notice it before. Now it's just suddenly all just sprouted out.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. That's life, isn't it?
I know. I always say that. I look at you and I think...
I was just looking at you and thinking how indelicate. I'd never say such a thing, but no, aim straight in there.
Straight in there with the competition. Not the competition, it's the cash giveaway, £36,000.
Yeah, £3,000 a month. Here's how. Why do Labour hate older people? And it is predominantly, isn't it, older folk who live alone. So anyway, she refused to rule it out.
I think old people vote Conservative.
Well, that'll be why.
Could well be it.
To be cynical. We're going to talk more about this at 8 o'clock, but do send in your views. Would it affect you? How badly would it affect you? And, you know, I think it's a 25% discount it's worth. It's quite a lot of an increase if they
But life
back.
used to be, you used to get things for nothing in life. There used to be free parking, for instance. You used to have... what else did you not pay for? Water, you didn't pay for water
yeah,
and
we're
things.
just having meters put in.
Oh, everything has a price nowadays.
Yeah. But the service and standard's gone down.
Yeah, but they just want to sell everything. Everything has to have a price.
Where does all the money go?
Well, that's a very good question.
It just doesn't make any sense. Things that were free were better. I don't understand it.
Where does all the money go? The big question. 7:25 is the time still to come. Should you celebrate being British?
Yeah, some Brits don't think so, believe it or not. That's after this. We'll be debating it. See you in a mo.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, we're going to ask you how you see yourself in terms of nationality.
Well, a new survey has shown that fewer of us than ever feel proud of Britain.
And less than half of you believe someone needs to be born in Britain to be British, which I think is quite reasonable to...
Yeah, although plenty of British people might have been born overseas. I mean, Boris Johnson instantly jumps into my mind. He was born in the States, wasn't he? I don't know where Rafe was born. Let's bring in our guests this morning, Rafe Hadelmanku, broadcaster and historian, and Aisha Ali Khan. Good morning to you both. Rafe, were you born in Britain? Because you seem very British to me.
Yes, I'm one of the few Londoners you'll meet today, actually. Born
oh, right, OK. You have a Canadian twang sometimes.
Well, I was schooled in Canada, so when I moved over, they did my schooling. But yes, British born.
And do you feel, Rafe, in Alaska, Aisha, the same thing? Would you have to be born in Britain to consider yourself British?
Well, it's an important question. You know, I mean, technically, if you have a British passport, then you are a British citizen, right? But is that all that you need, just to possess a piece of paper? You know, my main point, really, it's about cultural affinity. Yes, in most cases, that does mean your ancestral connection to this country. If your primary loyalty is to the nation, it's the land that your parents or your family fought and died for, that's the intrinsic link that connects a people to place. You know, compare that to somebody who's only been here for 5 years, just enough to qualify for a passport. But, you know, when I grew up in the 1980s, for example, I saw people like Daley Thompson and Frank Bruno and, you know, Tessa Sanderson, sports athletes. I didn't think of them as being anything other than British, which is separate to being English, I should say. I do think that being English is an ethnic identity, but Britishness definitely is a much more important thing than simply possessing a passport. It's about the land to which you feel culturally attached and a close connection.
OK, funny, I'm with Daley Thompson today. I've never met him before, so I'm looking forward to that. Aisha, would you go along with what Rafe has said in terms of when one should see themselves as British and how one should see themselves?
I do, actually. I feel that I personally feel very British, even though my ancestry is Pakistani and I've had Indian grandparents as well. I was in Spain just last week, and the amount of people I spoke with, I mean, these are people that are living out in Spain. They've been out for a good few years. They absolutely identify as British, and it just made me realise that there is actually very little left now in terms of barriers, in terms of nationalism and where you feel you belong. And I do feel that I myself am British born. And actually, Rafe, you've just mentioned about being English, and I actually was born in England, but I very rarely use the term, oh, I'm English. I always say I'm British. So that's quite interesting. You've pointed that out for me as well. But I do feel that my identity, the British values that my parents instilled in me growing up, you know, good work ethic, respect for your elders, respect for everybody, respect for your country, your neighborhood, your street, all these align perfectly with my own values, my religious values, my Islamic values as well. We all have a civic duty as well. And I think that fits quite nicely with British values as well. So I've never questioned my own identity as a British person. So this survey that's come out, it's actually quite interesting to see what other people think and how they feel about their own identities as well.
It's interesting, isn't it, Rafe? If fewer people are thinking, they want to celebrate being British, I wonder what they are, what their identity is built around. I mean, I suppose for a lot of people, they might think more about their football club or, I'm trying to think, that the school that they went to or the job that, the industry that they work in. What are the other factors that people are sort of choosing to identify themselves by rather than, nationalism, their nationality?
Well, what we've seen is a decline in pride in Britain's history, whereas we haven't seen a similar decline in, say, pride in Britain's sporting achievements. But I think that's what the key element of this new poll is all about. It's deeply depressing to see that there's been a 22% decline in feelings of pride in this country in the space of a decade. So what we've had in this country is Britain's identity and history is caught in a pincer movement between woke progressivism, which has been really influential in the last decade, and massive migration for essentially a quarter of a century. And they've both been extremely damaging because British history is not being taught and people are hugely ignorant of our past. And we've seen, certainly from the progressive side, a war on our history, undermining all of our achievements, attacking every great British hero, not teaching the complete story, say, of the British Empire or our role in ending the slave trade. And as a result of that, immigrants who are coming here see no incentive to buy into Britain when the media, the universities, our governments, our museums are all telling them that Britain is intrinsically bad and evil. The youth of today believe the same thing. The most important issue for the British youth of today is not the environment, it's racism. They believe Britain is systemically racist, even though Britain is the world's third least racist nation, behind only Brazil and Sweden. What we've seen is ideological subversion in this country over the past decade, a severing of that vital connection between the British people and their culture and their heritage. And that's why we've seen this shocking decline of 22% of people who have pride in their country in the space of a decade.
Guys, I would love to go on talking about this, but we're out of time. I'd just like to say, Aisha, is anything you'd just like to finish with?
I think that's completely wrong. I think the last 10 years we've seen more awareness around the history around the British colonialism. Lots and lots of countries obviously celebrated it. 65 countries across the world celebrate the Independence Day from Britain. Obviously, a lot of people are more aware of what's going on, what's happened in the past. And I speak as a history teacher, sorry, Rafe, so I can speak completely from experience. We do teach British history. We do teach our role in World War I, World War II. We are aware, the children are aware, but we also have to be aware of what happened when Britain, the British Empire ruled the seas, etc. So yes, I think a lot more people are aware, hence the figure, the 22% drop in the last 10 years.
OK, we have to leave it there. Aisha Ali Khan, history teacher, Rafe Hadelman-Coop, broadcaster and historian. Appreciate your thoughts, both of you. Thank you.
We'll say thank you, hello, welcome to Paul Coit. He's got the sport right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains have been stopped between Doncaster and Peterborough because of overhead line problems at Grantham. Buses replaced trains between Rugby and Northampton after a freight train broke down. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed in both directions, southwest of Tenby, between Jamestown and Penally after an accident. On the M4 in Berkshire, the inside lanes closed eastbound where a van's broken down between junctions 7 and 6 near Slough. On the M25 in Surrey, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed clockwise where cars broken down between junctions 11 and 12 from Chertsey to the M3. The queues are almost back to junction 10 for the A3. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Nearby on the A21, the southbound exit to the westbound A25 is closed.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, Mr. Paul, what's cooking? Man United have given a vote of confidence to Eric Ten Hag.
This is everywhere. This is across all the newspapers, but really it's a bit of a non-story, to be honest with you. He's got the vote of confidence. The chief executive at Manchester United, Omar Barada, sporting director Dan Ashworth that's come in. The big story is, yes, he has our vote of confidence that we believe he's the right man to go forward. Then you look deeper into the story and they're convinced that United are heading in the right direction. The thing is, Barada was asked the question before the Liverpool game, do you still believe in Eric? And he said, do we still believe in Eric? Absolutely.
And before the game.
And it was before the game. So and it's also what...
Sacked in the morning.
Yeah, getting sacked in the morning, or maybe a week next Thursday. But I don't think he's going to last. It all depends when it's going to be. But obviously, if anybody asks a director, they're not going to say, actually, you know what? Don't like the look of it.
Yeah.
It looks a bit wobbly to me, and I don't think we fancy him. So, of course they're going to say
I think there'd be more speculation, and it would be more dangerous for him if there was an obvious replacement candidate.
It's a good point, because there really isn't, is there?
There isn't. Who can you think of?
You know, I can only think of one person whose birthday it is today.
Who? Gareth Southgate?
Gareth Southgate.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's 54.
How old's Gareth? He's what?
Oh, no, you tell me. We'll play the game.
Oh,
we don't do this.
He's going to be 42.
Gareth, 42? Oh, come on.
Oh, is that too old?
54?
Oh, OK.
Yeah, sorry, Eamonn was going to... What were you going to guess? Were you going to guess 54?
Yes,
I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, so 54. US Open, Jack Draper is through to the US Open quarter-finals. This is the first time a Brit's done this since 2016, and it was, of course, Andy Murray was the last person. He won it back in...
Andy Murray's record there.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing so well. He hasn't even dropped a set yet.
Brilliant.
And he was throwing straight sets against Thomas Mašák yesterday, 1 hour 44. Djokovic is out, Alcaraz is out. I don't want to get overexcited about this. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but this is a great chance.
Do we know who he's playing next?
Yes, Alex de Minaur, who's from Australia, who is the boyfriend of Katie Poulter.
Oh, yes.
Who has also never reached a semi-final of a Grand Slam either. So him against Jack, and also de Minaur was asked about playing Jack Draper, and he said, well, I've never played him in a Grand Slam. Well, yes, you have. You played him in the semi-final of Wimbledon in 2022.
Just to raise that memory.
So, yeah, he couldn't remember that. But anyway, we're very excited about that. Medvedev, Sinner, they're still in it. Ain't going to be easy. This is not going to be a Emma Raducanu walk to the final, but... You know, he's a good player. Who knows? Very good chance. Very good chance.
What do you know about the Paralympics today? What's on offer?
Well, I'll tell you, really, yesterday, again, another 6 gold medals. So we had David Ellis and Megan Richter in the triathlon. Ellie Chalice and Louise Fittist won golds in the swimming. Stephen Maguire in the boccia. Have you seen the boccia? It's written boccia, B-O-C-C-I-A, and it's kind of like it's like a bowls kind of curling sort of thing where. It's the game for us in the future. It is. It's really good. And Nathan McQueen, Jodie Grinham, they both won golds in the archery, and Jodie, 7 months pregnant.
Crikey.
I don't know whether you can actually rest the bow on the bump.
Some sort of advantage there, but we'll take it.
29 golds in all. But, by the way, Jodie, so she said she had a bit of a scare last week. She had to go into hospital in Paris. They're thinking the baby's going to come. Everything was fine. And then when she won the gold, she said all I wanted to do was jump up and down and scream and shout. But being heavily pregnant, realistically, the best thing to do was just crouch down and give everybody hugs. So she did very well. 7 months pregnant, and she's won a gold medal.
We'll give you a hug in 40 minutes' time, mate, and we'll see
that
you.
long? I have to wait for the hug?
You
I'm going to have the hug now, and I'll be back for the... OK.
OK, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. Got the papers next. Don't go away.
Yeah. I thought...
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A window cleaner is battling to prove he has the only portrait of William Shakespeare made in his lifetime.
Yes, so owner Stephen Wadlow has been trying to validate the painting for years. He's had it x-rayed, he's had it analysed by experts, he's had it scientifically dated back to 1595 when the playwright was 31 years old. If it is the Bard, it could be worth north of £200 million.
Steve, welcome to GB News. First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime sort of thing while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, I like your copy of William Shakespeare, and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and the different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then, is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droeshout, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. Yes. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We have got Alex Armstrong and Nikki Hodgson. They have got the newspapers in front of them, and they're looking at a few of the stories that have caught their eyes. We were talking about pride in being British in our last debate on the show, and I see, Alex, here, the Daily Mail are reporting today that Britain's pride in British history has plummeted.
Yeah, this is obviously quite a shocking report, because we used to be such a proud country, didn't we, of everything, of Britain, of our flags, of our history. But this report's come out and saying just 64% of the UK's increasingly diverse society value our past. Now, obviously, they're putting this down to quite a few different things, including things like Brexit, a more difficult political situation in the country. But 64% is rather low, and they're expecting that to continuously go down as a more diverse Britain is more critical of itself, particularly our imperial past.
Mm-hmm.
Now, personally, I think there's a lot for this country to be proud of. We achieved incredible things, and I really just think that the British identity has been. You know, I know Nikki's going to disagree with me on this one quite vehemently. I can see you already. But I just think the British identity's been under attack for a really long period of time, and I think we need a bit of self-reflection on the good that this country has done for such a small little nation. We've achieved incredible things.
Go.
But the thing I would say is it's good to critically reflect on your history. It's a sign of a developed democracy. Because, I mean, I'm presuming you're not proud of slavery, our role in the slave trade.
But I'm proud that we got rid of it. I'm proud that we abolished the slave trade.
After we'd already exploited many thousands of people.
But we didn't start it, Nikki. We didn't start the slave trade, did we?
Don't even go there. That's way too complicated to start debating that right now. But, I mean, I think there is a serious point here about actually people's lack of knowledge of our history, and that divorces them from being able to be proud. And, you know, I've written a history book, a popular history book, and actually there are so many untold stories of ordinary people that you can be proud of. So it's just how you look at it in that sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpick on this survey as well. So I think there's only 53% take pride in our democracy, which is down from 69%. That's quite incredible.
Now that is worrying. You can understand when we have been through this real period of political turmoil where you've had Liz Truss, you know, the competition, who's going to last longer, a Lettuce or Liz Truss.
Yeah.
You've had a succession of unelected prime ministers inside
You've had Boris Johnson proroguing Parliament and lying to the Queen and challenging democracy in that way.
You can see the reason for that.
But the history plays a big part in this, history being taught at schools.
Yeah.
But if you don't know your own domestic history, where are you going? I mean, you can know what happened in Colombia or USA or whatever, and not know about your own country, and I think that should not be allowed.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you.
I think that's incredulous to think about that we would do that. But we're also seeing moves by Labour to say that whiteness is bad in school. That's something they're going to be putting on the curriculum, to challenge whiteness and things like that.
Racism is bad.
Well, yeah, but whiteness isn't. Being white isn't a bad thing.
But I mean, you know, just to, you know, and this is, by the way, just with the list of criticisms of politicians a minute ago, that wasn't an attack on the right, because we've had Starmer since he's been about being so negative about Britain, and lots of reports saying, look, businesses are literally going, well, if the Prime Minister's talking the country down about pay and tax rises in the future, why would anyone who doesn't have to be here be here? So I think politicians have definitely, across the political spectrum, contributed to that loss of sort of interest
pride
in
and
politics
identity.
and pride and identity.
Yeah.
Particularly the last few weeks, I think a lot of people have felt that. And, you know, obviously we had a very poor turnout in the last election, which attributes to that last stat I was talking about, which, again, people go, why do I bother? And I think we need to get back to talking about democracy again.
Here's the scary thing, Nikki. Women in the north of England, and indeed, I presume that extends into Scotland, died 2 years sooner than if they lived in the south of England, or the southeast in particular.
This is fascinating because we've long known that there is a discrepancy, you know, a north-south discrepancy in terms of life quality and life expectancy. But this is to do with the fact that women in the north of England are more likely to care for other people. And because they do the caring work, they save the economy £10 billion a year because they're doing the caring. And as a result of looking after other people, it impacts their own quality of life and their health. So it's to do with, it's to do with women doing the second shift, the third shift, as we call it in feminism. It's to do with women doing unpaid care work. That's the issue.
But why aren't women doing that in the south?
Well, we don't know. Maybe it's a community.
Woman in the south.
It doesn't make any difference. Maybe it's a communities thing as well.
There's also there's an economic disparity between the north and the south as well. I mean, so the wealth is concentrated very much down here in the south, and therefore that would make care something affordable, perhaps, for people living in the south. Therefore, in the north where it's not. So I think there's definitely something to be said about that.
I still balk at the thought that life expectancy, whether you're north or south, is just 81 and 83.
I know.
Scares me. My parents
we haven't,
in their 70s. I don't know.
It's scary.
Think about that myself. I'm halfway through.
Well, I mean, the great thing is that hopefully we'll have some big technological revolutions in the future.
Well, this Ozempic, apparently we're all going to be young forever now.
Yeah.
We're never going to die.
There you go.
Not only does it make us skinny, what else does it do? Oh, it's like the equivalent of a stent, no Alzheimer's, and
age reversing,
we don't
potentially.
get old.
Living forever? Does anybody actually want to do that?
Except there's a whole other theory that it eats your organs.
Oh, yeah, it causes like
I was going to say.
Whole issue of,
You can live forever, but you'll have diarrhea.
Well, there you go. You choose your poison.
Choose wisely. Can we talk about this really important issue that hasn't made huge headlines, really, but actually has caught the attention, certainly, of our viewers and listeners this morning? And, Nikki, this is in the Express. Comments that Angela Rayner distanced herself from and dodged around council tax. There's been lots of questions about where they're going to raise taxes. She ruled out, clear changes, but she didn't, and she skirted around the issue of possibly taking away the 25% benefit to single households.
Yes, so when you think of that expression, the single-person discount, you think of young people that don't have partners. But the reality is the majority of single-person households are pensioners. And so this is just going to feed in to these problems with, the winter fuel crisis, pensioners being more poorly off and not able to keep their homes warm and all the rest of it. I think she's got to be very careful with this issue because this is something that Labour could get so wrong so easily. And, that single-person discount, 25%, it doesn't make that much difference when you think about the cost of living as a single person. Yeah. Everything you pay for by yourself.
And I think pensioners will start to feel completely under attack by the government as well. I think it's get to a point where, again, I think you're right, the misconception is that it is young people, and it's actually not. Most young people live in a flat share house, they can't afford to live alone, a lot of them.
Or with their parents.
And so I think, it will just be seen as another attack on OAPs and pensioners.
I heard a theory doing the rounds that this, shock and backlash that there has been to the winter fuel scrapping and also possibly the reaction that there has been to this council tax thing could mean that the Chancellor waters down some of the pain that she's planning for the budget. And the other theory was that they're actually front-loading all the shocks now and actually the budget will be a lot better than we expected. But it's a risky old game because, as we just said in the previous story, all the negativity, it's not doing a great deal for Britain PLC, is it?
No, I mean, we've got millionaires fleeing the country at the moment as well. We've seen that. That's a big topic to talk about because we need investment into Britain in order to grow the economy, which is what Labour said they were going to do. We're going to grow the economy. You can't do that without wealthy people, unfortunately. They need to spend their money here.
Yes, the millionaires that weren't paying enough tax in the first place.
They do spend more than they even
not
though they're taxed.
Not necessarily in our economy, though, Alex.
Well, I would challenge that.
They shop around for what they want to.
Yeah,
what they want to get.
It's the privilege of being a millionaire, I guess.
See you again. See you later at about 20 to 9 or so this morning, so look forward to that. The weather, I think you can look forward to a few bright spots today. Here's Aidan.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the southeast are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, where we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So A cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving. They'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in Edinburgh is partly blocked eastbound by an accident at junction 2 for the M9, causing delays in the Scottish borders. There are road closures in Kelso till 9 o'clock tonight for the Men's British Cycling Tour of Britain. Train services are suspended between Doncaster and Peterborough because of overhead line problems. Buses replaced trains between Rugby and Northampton after a freight train broke down. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed each way southwest of Tenby between Jamestown and Penally after an accident. In Bristol, the A4175 Kensham Road is closed off the A431 Bath Road at Wills Bridge because of flooding causing queues. On the M25 in Surrey, there are clockwise queues after traffic was stopped when a car broke down between junctions 11 and 12 from Chertsey to the M3. The queues from Common Services halfway back to junction 9 at Leatherhead. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is your Britain's News Channel. It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Labour accused of helping terrorist group Hamas after confirming it will end the sale of some arms to Israel.
The Foreign Secretary David Lammy faces widespread backlash from MPs, including Conservative leadership hopeful Robert Jenrick, who called the move shameful.
Now, that as tensions in Israel reach fever pitch, people taking to the streets to protest against the Prime Minister.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, has refused to rule out scrapping the single-person discount for council tax. That's as pressure mounts on Labour to U-turn on winter fuel cuts for pensioners.
An inquest begins into the death of Steve Diamond, who took his own life after appearing on a Jeremy Kyle show in 2019.
Two NASA astronauts stuck in space report hearing a strange noise as the pair face an agonising wait to return to Earth.
And as schools return, new research finds dogs pick up on children's anxiety and could be the cure for academic stress.
And it's 3 years this month since the last Bond film was released, so we're asking this morning, why the wait?
And in the sport, Jack Draper becomes the first British man to reach the US Open quarter-finals since 2016. Another 6 goals for Team GB, which puts the tally now up to 29. And is it right that the Olympic rings stay on the Eiffel Tower permanently?
If you don't like the humid air that we've had over the last few days, good news. Fresher weather is on the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry everywhere. I'll have the full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
So, 1 minute past 8 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster. Welcome aboard.
Now, here's something I picked up in the newspapers today, which particularly, I think, applies to me. 4 in 10, that's 40% of us, don't like apologising because we never think we are wrong.
Oh, I am a big apologiser.
Oh, we love you.
But you are wrong. You're wrong quite a lot.
Well, I'm sorry, but... Oh, no, I don't mean I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
You're not sorry?
Yeah. No, I am. I'm an apologiser. You're an apologiser, aren't you?
No.
You are. What about if you know that you're wrong?
If I know I'm wrong, yes.
But you're never wrong.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the same.
That is the point. That is the point.
My husband always says to me, you'll never apologise. I always come with my tail between my legs. I'm like, yeah, because you're always wrong. And I'm always right. So if I'm wrong, I will apologise.
What about for a quiet life? Let's say there's something and it's like, I'm going to keep the peace here.
No, I can't do that.
Oh,
Can't do that either.
Yeah, I wish I could, to be honest.
Yeah?
Make myself a lot happier.
Sometimes.
Not saying sorry, not making peace.
Yeah.
Just breeds bad feeling. But if I've been wronged, I can't move on.
No.
Yeah.
And if you have an inner confidence that you were right all along, why should you dilute that? And why should you?
That's fair.
Yeah, a lot of people love you to feel miserable about yourself. I go through life and I'm quite... I mean, my great role model in life was James T. Kirk. Right?
Right.
And Captain Kirk from the Starship Enterprise.
Well, that says a lot already.
It does say a lot. But as a kid, as an 8-year-old, whenever I'm watching this, and this man was never wrong. He was assertive, he was positive, he would shout at people and then he would make up with them, whatever. But I thought that was my role model.
One of my favourite stories about you, Eamonn, where we used to work every year, and I know lots of people at home can relate to this, people have these sort of appraisals, and you have to go to your boss every year and go, what have I done that was really bad this year? And what could I work on next year?
What could you improve
and
on?
I'm saying to everyone, oh, God, I can't think. Like, I've had a great year. I don't really want to, like, go through this. And you'd be like, well, you know what I told them.
Well, no, yeah, but people would go in and say, well, I could be better with my punctuality and I don't really listen to what folk have to say. So you begin to make up things about yourself that aren't necessarily
to be fair,
true.
punctuality's never been your strong point. However,
I didn't admit
you would never admit it. And so you said to our boss...
what would you like? He said to me, what would you like to...
He said, I think I'm great.
Wrong? I said I don't have anything wrong. I'm completely fine.
And
I'm
if I wasn't, why would you
there must be something you need to improve on. Nope.
No, it's all great.
And it is all great. And you either believe, and I do believe, to do your job, whatever your job is, you've got to believe you're the best at it.
OK,
and if you don't believe that, then what's the point of doing it? So why would you go into your employers the next time round they're marking your scorecard and whatever, and you say, I'm not very good at this, I'm not very good at that.
But you know what? There's a reason why everybody loves Paul Coit, and you know, it's because he's easygoing. He's easygoing. He goes with the
It's because he tries so hard.
Sorry.
But the thing is, when you have those meetings, and it's the nonsense, it's when you go, well, you can tell when a boss is actually employing some ridiculous technique has been taught. Oh, you always start with a positive.
Yeah.
So if anybody says a positive to me, I'm thinking, here it comes. I mean, how about this? I mean, I was got rid of a job, and then I was phoned up, and then they said, oh, yeah, well, how's things, Paul? And I'm going, yeah, great. I'm thinking, I haven't heard from the boss for, like, a year. And then it was like, well, so how do you think Spurs are doing? How do you think... I'm thinking... And I just said, what is the reason you are calling me? Yeah, we're replacing you. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just say that in the first place?
You know what? You and I spoke about this recently, and the same boss had the same stuff with me.
Did he?
Talking about Manchester United.
Oh, come on.
And then it just came. Basically, we won't be renewing your contract.
I know.
Go away.
I know. Yeah. I'd rather you say, we're firing you. How do you think about Spurs? And I go, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
But the good thing about you, my friend, if I was sitting interviewing you or wanting that, you're positive, you're intelligent, you know what you're about.
And
you're
easy
to work with.
Even if he's wrong.
He's humorous, even when he doesn't mean to be. You know, there's
handsome, tall,
tall,
all that stuff.
Youthful, eternally
youthful,
and
we're delighted to have you. We're delighted to have you.
And you know what? He loves a key fob. He loves a big key fob.
Right, well, we're going to fob you off.
OK, I don't blame you.
Get on with
and
the
if you've just tuned in, you'll be saying,
what is going on?
Well, more in the sport coming up in 20 minutes. Paul and his big key fob.
OK. Britain will suspend 30 of 350 arms export licences with Israel.
Yeah, this was a shock announcement yesterday from the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy. He said he was deeply worried by Israel's conduct in Gaza. Here's what he said in Parliament.
For certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
And the former Defence Secretary, Grant Shapps, said in response to that the suspension was like student politics and a gut punch amounting to a punishment for Israel.
Well, let's speak now to the chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, Gary Mond. Good morning to you. We've had some pretty widespread condemnation from certain circles, including this morning the UK chief rabbi, who says it beggars belief. Boris Johnson has also come out saying, why are Alami and Starmer abandoning Israel? Do they want Hamas to win? And even Labour's friends of Israel have said they're concerned by the signal that this sends to Israel's enemies. What's your own view this morning?
it is absolutely appalling that the United Kingdom wishes to treat one of its major allies in this way. Israel needs those weapons. And also one has to think of how Israel is going to respond to this decision. I don't know what Benjamin Netanyahu is going to do, but don't forget the vast number of arms that Israel is supplying to the UK, particularly with the use of its war in Ukraine. It's quite possible that Israel might choose to react in a way that the United Kingdom does not like. I think that this decision...
Meaning what, Gary? Meaning what?
Meaning that Israel will stop supplying arms to the UK. This goes in both directions, you know. In fact, Israel supplies far more arms to the UK than the UK does to Israel.
You see,
Can
Gary...
you imagine what would happen if Israel stopped supplying vital equipment to the UK, which is used in Ukraine?
Yeah, well, as you say, it could very well happen. The thing is, the farcical thing about this situation is that all weapons can be used in a bad way. It doesn't matter what the weapon is. I mean, if it can kill, it can kill, and we don't have to agree on the way it kills people for it to be wrong. It's why Britain goes and says, well, you can have this one that can kill people, you can have this one that can kill people, but you can't have that one. That's what I find a bit ridiculous about this.
It's a condition of arms sales that they have to be able to prove it hasn't been in breach of international law. And this was the results of a review that was commissioned by Rishi Sunak, and the results have come back and meant they've had to change the legal parameters. It's interesting, Lord Ricketts this morning, a well-respected international British diplomat, has said this is actually about protecting the integrity of the UK's arms trade.
I don't buy that. We're in a war situation. Israel is an ally of the United Kingdom. Israel is seeking to eradicate Hamas, which is a threat not just to Israel, but to Jews everywhere. And to do so, it will need weapons. There is a war going on, in case one hasn't noticed.
Would it be worth Israel changing its position and allowing international observers or journalists into Gaza? Because that's been one of the problems, hasn't it? That they're not able to have evidence beyond any reasonable doubt that these weapons have been used in breach of international law. Well, if we could have observers, that would rule that problem out. The sales could resume if it was all above board. No, the weapons are being used to fight a war. We're seeking to eradicate the Hamas terrorists. And if some civilians unfortunately lose their lives during this process, that's what happens in a war. Did we have international observers when Britain was bombing Nazi Germany with a view to ending Adolf Hitler's regime? Of course we didn't. This is absolute nonsense. What is required is for Israel to win this war.
There'll be people jumping up and down listening to you here, and they'll be saying, really, the amount of attacks there's been on schools, on children in hospitals. There's just been too many...
There are no attacks on children or schools and hospitals.
Well, a lot of children have died and a lot of hospitals have been hit.
They're not targeting civilians. They're targeting terrorists. You realise that Hamas terrorists take over the schools and hospitals.
Are you actually saying that these children haven't died?
I'm not saying they haven't died. I'm saying they've been caught up in the crossfire. And the reason they're there is to protect Hamas terrorists. They're there to make it look terrible that Israel is targeting the terrorists and the children are being used.
Well, it's certainly succeeding, isn't it? It's succeeding in making it look terrible, and this is why you've got a problem.
It is making Israel look terrible, but its first priority is to eradicate Hamas. That's what the Israeli government is seeking to do and has been seeking to do.
Well, they had this twin strategy, eradicate Hamas and also to negotiate the release of the hostages, but they seem to be putting one strategy ahead of the other, which is this eradication of Hamas. And then we've had this awful situation, haven't we, in the last few days, where so close to the handover of some more hostages, they were tragically executed in cold blood by Hamas at the last minute. But President Biden has come out and just yesterday said that Israel could do more to try and reach some sort of ceasefire. Do you accept that kind of intervention? They are your biggest ally, Israel's biggest ally.
I'm not sure what President Biden means by Israel could do more. The pressure needs to be put on Hamas. There is a red line concerning the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Gaza and Egypt, whereby Hamas has been smuggling weapons for years, which has enabled them to commit the atrocities on the 7th of October last year. Benjamin Netanyahu is absolutely firm that there will be no negotiation, as far as he's concerned, on the Philadelphia corridor, and Israeli troops must remain there. And I fully understand and accept that position.
OK.
His position, of course, if he does agree to negotiations, Gary, he's out of a job. He's out of government, isn't he?
Not necessarily. He has got certain principles, and he will accept the deal if those principles are upheld. And I think his government would as well. No, so I don't think he's out of a job. And regarding the massive demonstrations in Israel that one's witnessing against Netanyahu, there are two sides to the coin. There's a lot of support for him. Unfortunately, the state of Israel is split down the middle as to whether they support the idea of paying virtually any price to get the hostages freed on the one hand, or on the other hand, standing firm and putting the future of Israel first, because that is what the Netanyahu government is doing at the moment. They don't want to see another 7th of October. Look at all the soldiers who've lost their lives in fighting this war. They will have died in vain if we just allow Hamas to reoccupy the Philadelphia corridor and take over full control of Gaza as they had before.
Gary, thanks for your take on things and adding that dimension to the whole debate today. It is not easy to find a solution, and that opens up a whole talking point for us this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
So emotive. He's the chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, Gary Mon there.
Now, the Deputy Prime Minister and Community Secretary, Angela Rayner, has refused to rule out scrapping the single-person discount for council tax.
Yeah, people get a 25% off their bill if they live alone, to account for the fact that they benefit from fewer council services than couples or those with families. So cutting or scrapping this discount would affect, we think, many older people just weeks after it was announced that most will lose the winter fuel payment. We've had some views on this morning, haven't we? This has really captured the imagination of our audience. Ollie says, this government hate elderly people. I feel we're being victimised, especially by Madame Reeves and Rayner. Now we're being penalised for being widows or widowers. Well, not everyone is a wealthy pensioner. Not every pensioner claims benefits.
Anthony believes older people are being forced, pensioners in particular, out of their homes so that they can be passed on to people with families. Let's find out if there's any truth in any of that. Well, we don't know about that, but just to explain more, GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster with her take on things. Catherine?
Yes, good morning, both. Well, first of all, regarding the possible scrapping of the single-person council tax discount, that saves an average of £500 if you're in a Band D property. We don't know at all that it is going to happen, but the reason people are worrying about this is because Angela Rayner yesterday was asked to confirm that the government still had no plans to raise council tax. As they'd said during the election, she said, yes, that was still the case. But when she was asked specifically about possible scrapping of this discount, she didn't really answer. So I think it's legitimate to wonder whether come October the 30th, this is something that they could take away. So that will worry plenty of people. And of course, it just adds to the sense that many pensioners have that they're getting a very, very raw deal from this government. The ongoing row about the scrapping or the means testing, rather, of the winter fuel discount. About 10 million pensioners are going to lose that. There's been a huge backlash. There's many Labour MPs very unhappy about that, and campaigning groups warning that potentially people could die during the winter because they simply can't afford to have the heating on. Now, the government would say, look, we've got a £22 billion black hole we have to fill. This was a difficult choice. But also, I think they realise that this is very difficult. Now, they are making a few moves to try and sort of mitigate it. One of the things that they're doing is this household support fund for people that are struggling. They are extending that. So they're saying, go to your council and approach them. You may qualify for help that way. The other thing they're doing is highlighting pension credit because there's estimated to be not far off 1 million pensioners who qualify for that. It's worth up to £4,000 and they're not claiming it, partly because it's a very complicated and lengthy application process now. If you get that, you're then qualified for the winter fuel discount too. So the government say, look, make sure you get that. But of course, many pensioners will think, hey, this is a whole load of jumping through hoops, and quite a few of them feel that they're really under attack from the government.
Thank you very much indeed. A brief run through other news stories happening today, and head teachers will now be warned on a Monday if they're getting an Ofsted inspection that particular week. It's one of many reforms the regulatory body is introducing after a new report criticised its response to head teacher Ruth Perry's death. It said Ofsted's reaction was defensive and complacent.
Car makers are reportedly limiting the sale of petrol and hybrid vehicles to avoid hefty net zero fines. Industry insiders say it means someone buying a car today might not receive it until 2025 as manufacturers grapple with green energy quotas that are set by the government.
Downing Street's resident feline, Larry the cat, has a new companion after Sir Keir Starmer revealed his family has welcomed a Siberian kitten. The Prime Minister joked that the new addition followed a long summer of negotiations with his two children as the Starmer family settle into life at number 10.
Now, an inquest is getting underway this morning into the death of 63-year-old Steve Diamond. He took his own life after appearing on the Jeremy Kyle Show a few years ago in 2019.
Now, Jeremy could be called himself to give evidence after the incident led to his show being cancelled. Joining us now, our national reporter Charlie Peters, who's outside court to tell us more. Charlie, I'm beginning to wonder straight away, 2019 this happened. Why is this only coming to court now?
Well, there was a preliminary hearing earlier in April, Eamonn, for the coroner's court, but this is finally the full inquest. There is counsel to the tribunal. There are extensive legal perspectives on several sides to take place here that will unfold over the next 5 days at this full inquest. But at the preliminary hearing held in April, the coroner here in Winchester, Jason Pegg, heard that when Mr. Diamond left the ITV studios in May 2019, he felt as though his life was not worth living. He said that he wanted to jump out of the taxi on the way home from the ITV's studios. The coroner in Winchester, Jason Pegg, previously ruled that Jeremy Kyle had called Diamond a serial liar and had told his guest he would not trust him with a chocolate button. Now, Steve Diamond, who took his life in the May of 2019, 7 days after recording a programme on the Jeremy Kyle Show that was never aired. On that recording, he was taking a lie detector test about whether or not he'd been unfaithful with his former fiancée. Now, this full inquest, this 5-day inquest, will assess Mr. Diamond's interaction with the Jeremy Kyle Show, also his interactions with his family and his GPs. But the counsel to the tribunal, Rachel Spearing, the barrister working with them, has said that this is not going to be a scope looking at how reality TV works in Britain. It is focused specifically on Mr. Diamond's case and his interaction with the programme, his mental state at the time, and any aftercare that ITV provided following the filming.
Charlie, thanks very much indeed. I know you'll keep us updated throughout the programme.
Going to keep you updated on the weather picture now. Aidan McGivern.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the south east are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, well, we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So a cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving, they'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
If you haven't been tempted, we are about to put temptation in front of you.
Yes, the Great British Giveaway is extremely tempting. £36,000 could be yours. It's equivalent to £3 grand a month for 12 months.
Have a go.
This is your chance.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
70% of population will make a judgment on someone just by looking at them. And within 2-3 seconds, we make a decision if we like someone or not.
Really? Is it that quick?
So it's actually very, very fast. So before we have a chance to kind of express what we want to say, our subconscious mind is kind of looking for clues. So you look at someone and you look at their, for example, I don't know, the watch they're wearing, maybe the makeup. I spent literally my whole childhood learning, being absolutely mesmerized by my mom's ability to choose different style of clothing for different style personalities. British definitely take a pride in their appearance. They do spend time to look good. There is a lot of amazing British designers. For me, it was always about that feeling that I've learned from my mom's shop, how the people were living, buying certain things. And I was like, oh my God, they look happy. They've got this big smile on their face. My main objective always was to make people feel good. So now as a stylist, I help them to go through style therapy. I help them to discover colours that are good for their colours that they wear them close to their face, but also it sets the tone for their wardrobe. And then we look at the outfit formula. So it's, yeah. When I look at Ellie's dress sense, I was just thinking, OK, she likes to be polished.
I do like to be polished.
Exactly. Elegant, timeless. I look at the reference to the dress you're wearing today. It's that kind of Chanel black and white, timeless, never go out of fashion. So for me, it's about, it's not the trends, but how you would like your personal style to be and how timeless it can be.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, a lot of people saying James Bond and the new film, where is it? So we were talking earlier, it seems to be 3 years since the last film was released, and people want a bit more. But there's no script, there's no director, there's nobody, most importantly, has been cast to replace Daniel Craig.
So how much longer are we going to have to wait? We want to know when the next Bond film will be hitting cinemas. Well, who exactly should we talk to about all of this? We have chosen Matthew Pickup. He's the host of the Really 007 podcast. Really good to see you. Thanks for joining us, Matthew. How much longer then?
Well, that's the question we're all asking. It's been quite a while, as you say. It's been 3 years. And there doesn't seem to be any movement. By all accounts, there's no, as you say, there's no script, there's no director, there's no James Bond. So even if a few of those things were to be sorted today, it would still be a couple of years before we'd see Bond back on the big screen.
The main hurdle is to find a successor to Daniel Craig, and the strange way the last film ended. Where do your own affiliations lie as regards who should replace him, Matthew?
Well, obviously, it's a big and difficult question. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is someone who's been sort of heavily linked, and I think some bookies stopped taking bets on him becoming the new James Bond. You know, you wonder whether those rumours have come from somewhere. They must have done. I'd be happy with him at this point. You know, I just want it to get going. My choice probably would have been Henry Cavill. I think he's someone who would have embraced the role and somebody who's capable of doing it. But I think, you know, he'd previously been Superman. He's involved with other franchises. So I'm not sure that it will be him. So I think Aaron Taylor-Johnson, let's go with him.
What if you're like me and you love the Bond films? I grew up watching them at Christmas. You know, families are enthusiasts, but I'm quite enjoying the pause. I feel like sometimes the continual reinvention of the wheel. Oh, we're going to have an even faster car, an even more beautiful woman coming out of the sea. Can't we just enjoy the old classics and, dare I say it, maybe even the books, rather than having to continually come up with new ones, which is really just more of the same?
Yeah, I think in some regards, a pause and a sort of refresh is a good thing. And, you know, we've certainly had that. Obviously, for the last 3 years, there was a period after Licence to Kill, after Timothy Dalton's last film, between that and GoldenEye, which was actually the biggest period between Bond films from 1989 until GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan in 1995. So sometimes it is quite good for, as you say, you know, a period, a pause. But I think fans and, you know, and even just film fans in general would like to know that there is something happening and that there are plans in place to you know, start the process for a new film.
Matthew, just as we say goodbye to you, do you have a favourite? I mean, when you look at the franchise, is there one film that you would say, yeah, that's my favourite?
I'm not a big fan of ranking films, but I think Goldfinger is an absolute classic, and I think, you know, Sean Connery, who was probably the best in the role, was in his best, you know, in that film. I also have a huge soft spot for The Living Daylights because I think it's got a little bit underrated. I think that Timothy Dalton did a great job in that role, and also at my wedding, my wife walked down the aisle to some of the music from The Living Daylights, so you know, it's got a place in my heart.
I know who you're going to say, because you can't be impartial on this one. What? It's Roger Moore, isn't it? Because he's your mate. Yeah. But do you think he was the best genuine? Would you have to say that?
I think all the Bonds, including the ones that weren't supposed to be any good, Timothy Dalton, whatever, were all excellent. I think they really were very, very good.
Sean,
for me, Live and Let Die, which was Roger Moore's first Bond outing. I thought that was an excellent film. Did you like that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, I must have watched that countless times growing up. It was so good. Like? Roger was great.
You sound like you like them all.
I haven't been quite as keen on some of the more recent ones. I wasn't so keen on Quantum of Solace. There are story aspects in Spectre I wasn't happy with. And the last one, you know, various things happened in that that I'm not so happy with still.
Yeah, and controversially, I wasn't even that keen on a blonde Bond, so the idea of there being a female Bond or any of that happening, I just can't get past. It has to be a tall, dark and handsome public schoolboy, like in the book. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much indeed, Matthew, the host of Really 007. podcast. Thank you very much.
I just had to Google who Henry Cavill is.
Would you know who he is?
Hard to prove.
Superman.
Yeah. I haven't watched Superman, but he's very handsome.
Yeah, but I think that goes against him. I think
need to be tough.
The new Bond has now got to be based on Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Not on Roger Moore or Pierce Brosnan, Pierce Brosnan's the most lovely man, I'll tell you.
I'd love to have met him. I'd love to meet him.
Oh, he's the sort of guy who say you've got 2 minutes with Mr. Brosnan, and you say right, and he'll go never mind, and you'll be talking for 20 minutes with him. He's very, very good. Lovely man.
Amazing. Right,
and
which was your favourite?
He's got a lovely relationship as well.
Yeah,
with
he's been with his wife for a long time. It's one of the Hollywood marriages that's been a success story. Anyway, we digress, but do let us know your favourite Bond film, who your favourite Bond is, and who you'd like to see take up the role. Why not? We're always interested to know what you guys think.
Well, one person who definitely won't be getting the role is Paul Coy.
Why not?
Don't tell him I said that. Don't just.
I'm telling.
Just saying that between us and the viewers and listeners.
He'll be here in just a mo.
Okay.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Scottish Borders, there are road closures in Kelso until 9 o'clock tonight for the Men's British Cycling Tour of Britain. Buses replaced trains between Rugby and Northampton after a freight train broke down. On the M1 from Buckinghamshire into Northamptonshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound after an accident between junctions 14 and 15 from Milton Keynes to Northampton, causing delays. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed each way southwest of Tenby between Jamestown and Penally after an accident. In Bristol, the A4175 Kensham Road in Willsbridge is closed off the A431 Bath Road because of flooding causing queues. In Somerset, the A359 is closed each way off the A361 between Nycatch and Mendip after an accident. On the M25 in Surrey, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed clockwise after an accident between junctions 11 and 12 from Chertsey to the M3 with queues from the Cobham services.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Oh, the big question of the morning.
Which would be your favourite Bond, Coity?
All different. I'm not just saying it, George Lazenby. I liked On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh. Great film.
It was a really good film.
But Telly Savalas and Diana Rigg.
Diana Rigg, doesn't she?
She was my first crush.
Was she really?
Yeah.
It's funny because Telly Savalas was mine.
I remember being 10 at the time, and you were able to buy these cards with bubble gum.
Yeah.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, these James Bond.
Was it the flat bubble gum that would go on the back of the
flat
card.
bubble
Yeah,
gum.
yeah.
But I remember I had the cards taken off me because there's this scene where Diana Rigg is laying a bet over a roulette table.
Oh, is she?
She's
Say no more.
Say no more.
She's got a good rig.
There was too much.
Too much rig.
There was too much to see. Too much to see.
What was the game that they play though? When they have the paddle and they go dilly-bonk, and they always play that.
Dilly-bonk.
It's like a dilly-bonk. And then it's like a French thing. Is it baccarat? Is that it, baccarat? No, yes, sir, I can book.
Yes, sir.
But they had a paddle, and then they would flip the card over. There's no numbers on the card.
I've been in that casino where they
Have
played
you?
that. Yeah.
Where is that? Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo.
Right. Did you go dilly-bonk and turn the paddle over?
I had my whole dinner suit and everything there.
Did you?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And did they say, Mr. Clooney? Is there any chance that you'll be the next one?
Mr. Clooney, maybe. Right, so what have we got here?
Let's talk about the US Open very briefly. Jack Draper. I've got very good feeling about Jack Draper, which is probably
Jack
the kiss
Draper
of death
is
I've
a
just
Brit,
put on him.
Just in case people don't know.
Yeah, a young Brit through to the US Open quarterfinals. First British
Could
players.
he be a James Bond?
No, he's too young.
No, right.
He's too
20.
young. Yeah.
But look, I love Andy Murray, but all the will he, won't he, knee surgery, this surgery, has kind of dominated the world's attention. And actually, Jack Draper's been playing consistently well for some time.
Flying under the radar.
Under the radar. But now, as you say, the path is clearing.
It really is because, we've got Carlos Alcaraz, who would have been in the way, although he beat him during the summer as well at Queen's.
Right.
Doesn't matter because he's gone. Djokovic is gone. I just wonder whether it's almost the stars are aligning a little bit. I know I'm thinking about Emma Raducanu and what happened a few years ago, but he stands as good a chance as any because he's not even dropped a set so far. So he beat Thomas Machak, 1 hour 44. Alex de Minaur comes next. Katie Boulter's boyfriend.
OK.
Wish him well.
Well, the ball girls aren't allowed to drop anything either, and we've got some footage here of an incident that caught your eye.
Yeah, I'll talk you through it very briefly before we see it. Yulia Putintseva frustrated after missing 2 break points. Well, that was her argument anyway. So she's playing Jasmine Paolini, and this is what happened. So have a look at this. So this is the ball girl has got the ball. Normally, you would bounce the ball to the player, and there's no problem. So there we are. There's the ball girl. Bounce it over there. Yes, I'll have that one. No, don't want it.
The ball just hit her.
Yeah. You know what? For the third one, I just would have buzzed it right at her face. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't take any of that nonsense.
Yeah.
And this little poor girl, she's got her arms out. Well, what do you... And then she's like, well, OK, well, I'll go and pick that one up. It's just nonsense.
It's not sportsmanlike.
It's
and,
just bad manners.
Given that Russia have only recently been welcomed back into the tennis fold following their invasion of Ukraine, I think showing that kind of contempt for other people is just very controversial.
The thing is, I don't care who you are, what you do, how important you are. It's just bad manners. Yeah. And you know what? And you do yourself a favour, even if you are that sort of person, it makes you look ridiculous. And everybody's going to dislike you. So just show a bit of humility and be nice. Don't
Paul,
like it at all.
thank you. We'll be very nice. Thank you for being here, and thank you for everything you do for us every single day. That's just me being nice. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can you spell respect? That's the question.
R-E-S-P-C-T.
Just didn't go with the
GCP.
Thank you, my friend. Alex Armstrong and Nikki Hodgson. We've got them with the newspapers next.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Sarah, welcome to the show. Obviously, you work for a tobacco company, so a little caveat there to slip in. Nevertheless, it's no surprise that the illegal market is growing so much. When you look at the cost of cigarettes in Britain, huge amounts of duty, and oftentimes, of course, criminality always finds its way into the system. Tell us more about your report.
Absolutely. I mean, up to 90% of a packet of cigarettes is tax. And in the last year, there's been 2 tax increases that have equated more to the last 3 years combined. So now, if you're a roll-your-own smoker, a 30-gram pouch of roll-your-own will cost £22.50, but you can buy a counterfeit pack of 50 grams for £3. So there's a massive disparity. A lot of illegal tobacco is imported, but we do also have a problem in the UK with illegal tobacco factories. So in the last month, there's been an illegal tobacco factory in Gateshead, in Bury, busted, producing roll-your-own tobacco. And on the 12th of July this month, West Midlands gang illegal tobacco factory, the gang was found guilty of producing illegal tobacco, and that was more than £5 million lost tax revenue to the government. And actually, all of those people found guilty got a suspended sentence.
And how does that work? They're literally importing container loads of raw tobacco and packaging it up in factories in Britain. And they're using what appears to be British packaging illegally?
Yeah, some of it is branded packaging, so some of it isn't the kind of unbranded packaging we'd see on cigarettes and roll-your-own now, but it's relatively simple to reproduce, especially RYO. Our own pack swap data now shows that about 50% of the roll-your-own market is illegal tobacco.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions.
That raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return.
And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, another lively paper review coming your way. We've got Alex Armstrong and Nikki Hodgson, who I've been told in the breaks have been downing espressos. So it bodes well for some liveliness.
We didn't get much sleep.
Yeah,
we were saying
what needs must.
So.
Yeah.
Alex, let's kick off, shall we, with lots of talk about this winter fuel allowance. There's been sort of widespread criticism that a Labour government would be so callous. And now there's a petition.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. I think it has their name written all over this, and therefore to hand it back, to take it back, it's just silly.
Well, incredible. I mean, thank you to the viewer who actually messaged me about this, because I wasn't aware of it. But there's a massive petition on Age UK's website, which is now almost about to hit 500,000 people. This is an incredible amount of people signing this petition.
There is a website available where you can claim. If I hear this again, why should you have to?
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. But the backlash has been incredible. And, from the Labour Party who went in before this election saying they criticised the Tories for doing it, said we wouldn't hurt OAPs, to reverse that so quickly is really backfiring. And, of course, they're running scared from a debate in the Commons. They've refused to take the Tories up on that one. And I think this is really, really running bad for them at the moment. It seems to not be losing any momentum.
I think, look, playing devil's advocate, you can understand, the idea of means testing might be sensible if you've got these wealthy pensioners that don't need the help. Fine, you can see why that might be a good saving. I think where they come unstuck is obviously A, the assumption that lots of pensioners are super wealthy, which is clearly not the case. But B, this wasn't in their manifesto.
No.
They've just been elected on a landslide. And one of the first things they do is something that wasn't in their manifesto.
And also, it's just so callous. I'm sorry, but, if you're meant to be the compassionate party, then you shouldn't be going after pensioners like this. That's the reality of it.
Now, going after phones here, it was interesting. I was in central London last week, and I had a conversation with 2 police officers who were walking down the road, and they said, "Are you George Clooney?" I said, "No, actually, I'm humble Eamonn Holmes, television presenter." Right? So we're having this conversation, and they said, "Just want to say to you, Mr. Holmes, be very careful around here because they're snatching phones. They've already got 6."
Oh, where was this?
In this area. This was in Stratton Street.
Oh, right.
Crazy.
Yes. 6.
So that's near the Ritz.
Yeah.
And so they had 6. He said, this is what's going on here. It is like an industry.
Yeah, well, it is. 1 every 6 minutes in the capital is stolen. This is an incredible figure. What was the number here? Meta-analysis, 90,000, almost 91,000 phones, equating to almost 250 a day. And that's 2022, so we think it's got worse, of course, since then. So the government are now stepping in, saying part of this, well, obviously we can't stop the physical phone being snatched. You just have to be as careful as you can. but they're inviting technology firms to come up with proposals to lock down your phone and disable it immediately if it's snatched, which should be a deterrent.
But how on earth, Alex, I mean, you're more tech-savvy than I am. How on earth can you have a design on a device that can determine if something has been stolen or something just thrown across a room or dropped?
It's really good. So there's lots of people have second devices, like a watch or a laptop at home. Not saying you'll be able to do it immediately, but there's ways if it gets too far away from something like that near you where it could just deactivate quite quickly. So there's ways around it.
I think the thing is, through, say, your partner or friend's phone, you should be able to say, oh, I haven't got my phone, where is it? And someone else can see it for you. This is just too easy that these disappear the way they do.
Although you could have a lot of fun, couldn't you? Have a row with your partner.
Yes.
Disable your phone.
a bit of advice to the viewers, though. So there is a way to stop that, and you can do all these things, by the way. But you've got to Google it, because I can't remember the exact instructions. But there's part of the thief. They swipe down the top of your phone and they disable the internet. And there's a way you can stop that from happening on your home screen of your phone.
There's a hack,
please Google it, because it will help you. And then you've got to do what Eamonn said. You can lock your phone down.
Yeah, but we all just have to be more careful. We all just kind of stand there with our phones out.
I do want to say, Nikki, London is just a city. It's a den of thieves.
It is.
Everywhere you go. We were just talking about James Bond's. I remember being with Roger Moore and getting loads and loads of pictures, him and me together. And it was a 35mm camera, and I was bringing my kids to a amusement, a fun fair thing. And I put this, it was literally between my legs, this camera bag, and my ankles were touching it. And I'm saying to them, "Oh, you do this, you do that." And it was gone. They'd taken it from between my legs.
Professional thieves have all
At least the bobbies were out warning you, because there is a sense that, actually it's becoming more widespread, because frankly there is no rule of law
and no one to police.
It's a bad rep for our city as well, isn't it?
Nikki, can we talk about pharmacies? They're called pharmacy deserts, where people can't basically get their hands on medicine because they're closing everywhere.
This is really alarming. So it's a story to do with the locations of pharmacies, particularly in rural areas, which, these pharmacies are under threat. And when we think about the kinds of people that might live in rural areas, often it is older people, it's people that are less mobile to get to their pharmacies in the first place. We can't have this constant push for pharmacies and pharmacists to deliver more care for patients, to take the burden off GPs if they're not there. Exactly. So I just think this is a really disturbing story. I mean, in London, I use a digital pharmacy for my medication. It gets delivered to my house. That just isn't an option for most of the country. So, it's just really, really worrying.
Time for an air booze ban. This is the Ryanair chief executive, Michael O'Leary. He was raging. He was saying that, too many people are getting on planes drunk. But I would say, I'd laugh. I know Michael O'Leary, and I'd say, what? So would you rather you got them drunk than they're spending the money with you?
Quite.
Rather than whatever. But I don't really understand. I understand people having a few drinks and having a relaxing time on an airplane, especially if they've got bad nerves about flying. But people who just get sloshed.
Absolutely.
The ones that shock me are like the 9 a.m. boozers. I just can't drink at that time of day. Personally, I can't do that. But people do go and get really slammed at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Well,
and then get on a plane.
People think that time in an airport doesn't exist, right?
Also, it depends on what time you get up, Alex. If you're up
that's
at 3
true.
for a flight,
That's true.
If you get delayed, for example, on my 40th birthday, got up at 3, got to the airport, realised I brought my daughter's passport. So
you'd joke.
Oh, my goodness. Sit in the airport till midday when my amazing mother-in-law brought my actual passport to the airport. So we got a
Then it was definitely time for a drink.
So here we go. Right, so you're rebelling against this because you get smashed before you get on.
I would suggest, how does he know it's booze that's behind the rage on his legs? Could it be to do with the fact that they're squeezed in like cattle into tiny seats and that they're bags? And, it's not exactly a pleasurable experience.
I guess people drink just to make it bearable. I mean, actually, I would ban booze on flights.
No, I don't think we should do that.
And I
think you're taking the fun.
Be punished for the behaviour of a few naughty people.
Because the way alcohol affects your body in the air is different for everyone, and some people just cannot control themselves, and they don't necessarily know the impact that they have on other people. It's so intimidating if you're sat next to a drunk person on an aeroplane, especially when you've got a child. So I actually would just ban it.
Okay.
How good are you at saying sorry?
Excellent. But apparently...
Only if you're wrong.
Apparently 4 in 10 Brits never do it because they think they're never wrong. So they don't apologise ever.
I can understand that.
Yeah, but we are a country of
like
apologists, though. We like to apologise. Oh, sorry for this, sorry for that.
We apologise when people bump into us.
So is this saying we don't apologise for the big problems?
Well, I would like to know the gender balance of this, because I suspect that the 4 in 10 are men.
That's typical sexism. That's rubbish.
Look, I want to fly the flag for the sisters, Nikki, but in my household, my husband says sorry more than I do. Could be because he's wrong more often.
Exactly, there you go.
I think he might want an easy life, possibly. I don't know.
I don't think he does.
No, OK.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
All right, OK.
As the song says, sorry seems to be the hardest word. So we'll go from sorry to thank you, Alex, Nikki.
Goodbye.
Thank you both very much indeed for this morning.
Yeah,
appreciate it. See you again soon.
You should have coffee often.
Anyway. Not for the staff, I think.
Aidan McGibbon, he's been on Espressos as well all morning. Here he is with your forecast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into Western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers across East Anglia and the southeast are slow to clear later in the afternoon and into the evening. But for the Midlands, Northern England, parts of Wales and the southwest, plenty of dry and fine weather. A good deal of cloud and some outbreaks of rain or showers moving across Scotland and Northern Ireland by this stage in the evening. And temperatures starting to fall as the sun goes down. And actually here it's going to be a relatively cool, in some places chilly night with clear skies and lower humidity across many parts. But elsewhere, where we keep some patches of cloud, we keep some showers going into the early hours of Wednesday, and we'll see lows of 13 or 14 in the south, mid to high single figures further north, and in some sheltered glens, low single figures. So a cool start on Wednesday, and certainly a fresher day to come for all of us up and down the UK. There'll be some sunshine around, but also showers will get going once again. And again, these will be slow moving. They'll be heavy in places. But away from the showers, in any sunny spells, feeling fairly pleasant with light winds and highs of 22 Celsius in the south, mid to high teens further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M6 in Warwickshire is partly blocked northbound by an accident between junctions 1 and 2 from Rugby to Coventry, causing delays. Now delays of up to 40 minutes with some cancelled trains between Rugby and Northampton after a train broke down. On the M1 in Northamptonshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed northbound after an accident between the Newport Pagnell services and junction 15 at Northampton, causing long delays. In Pembrokeshire, the A4139 is closed in both directions southwest of Tenby between Jamestown and Penally after an accident. In Bristol, the A4175 Kensham Road in Willsbridge is closed off the A431 Bath Road because of flooding causing queues. In Somerset, the A359 is closed each way between Nunneycatch and Mendip after an accident. On the M27 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident at junction 7 at Hedge End near Southampton, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
How would you like an extra £3,000 in your bank account each month for an entire year? Well, it could be yours with our £36,000 secret salary to be won. You'll get £36,000 in cash to do whatever you like with over the coming year. And the best news? It's totally tax-free, which means you'll get every penny to spend. For a chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has accused Sir Keir Starmer of abandoning Israel as Labour confirm it will suspend the sale of some arms to the country.
Now, this as the Foreign Secretary David Lammy also faces a backlash from MPs, including Conservative leadership hopeful Robert Jenrick, who called the move shameful.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, has refused to rule out scrapping the single-person discount for council tax. That's as pressures mounting on Labour to U-turn on their winter fuel cuts for pensioners.
And as Labour pushes through legislation to nationalise railways, Shadow Transport Secretary Helen Whately tells us why the new bill is being rushed through Parliament.
An inquest is beginning into the death of Steve Diamond, who took his own life after appearing on the Jeremy Kyle Show in 2019.
And as schools return, new research has found that dogs pick up on children's anxiety, and they could be a cure for academic stress.
If you don't like the humid air that we've had over the last few days, good news. Fresher weather is on the way, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry everywhere. I'll have the full details coming up in the forecast very soon.
Hello there, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening from. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast.
We begin this final half hour of the programme talking about the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who's confirmed that the government will immediately suspend 30 of its 350 arms export licences with Israel.
Well, there's been widespread backlash this morning, including reaction from the former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who's accused Starmer of abandoning Israel.
Well, let's cross over to Westminster, and there in place is our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Yes.
It says something else.
It does say something.
Don't know why.
And thank goodness, I thought, has she got married, divorced?
Already
what has
married.
happened to her there? But anyway, that is our Olivia, who we know and love. Olivia, so Boris Johnson's wading into this row now.
Boris Johnson has waded in. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to prove himself as a sort of older statesman. When he was Prime Minister, the UK fully backed Ukraine and would have, of course, fully backed Israel. Now, this is problematic for the Labour government. At the moment, it sounds as though Labour ministers are trying to play down their decision to suspend these arms licences with Israel. The Defence Secretary, John Healey, has said that the British government is still completely behind Israel. This is a significant decision, not in terms of numbers, because Britain only supplies 0.02% of arms to Israel, but in terms of the message that it sends out. The US has threatened to block arms deals with Israel, but it hasn't actually gone so far as to do it. And actually, Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, has said that she wouldn't do that. So here, Britain has gone a step further than the US. Now, why is that? David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, says that it is simply a question of this report that they've received proves that it would be dangerous for Britain to carry on supplying arms to Israel because there's a possibility that those arms could be used to break international law. He makes clear that there is no evidence so far that Israel has actually yet broken international law. He says it's basically just a sort of technicality, but there are murmurs among backbenchers on both sides of the House that this is more of a political decision. Keir Starmer is, of course, and has been for a long time now, under huge amounts of pressure from Muslim backbenchers, constituents of Muslim backbenchers, some of those independent MPs who defeated Labour MPs in the last general election. There are 5 of those sort of pro-Gaza MPs, and some people are suggesting that he's beginning to buckle to pressure. Even 2 ministers have said that they're not happy with the timing of this announcement as it comes on the day of the funeral of 2 2 different Israeli hostages. So there's going to be a lot of contention around this issue, and it certainly doesn't help Keir Starmer that Boris Johnson's waded in.
A lot of contention also around Labour regarding various tax issues. This is the single person's tax allowance for living alone, and also the winter fuel allowance, as well. Labour drawing flack on both those fronts.
Absolutely. We're waiting for the budget on the 30th of October, and Keir Starmer has made it very, very clear in his depressing speech last week that taxes will rise. Now, which taxes are going to rise remains to be seen. Labour sort of have painted itself into a corner in a way, because during the election they did say that they wouldn't raise taxes on ordinary working people, which was seen to mean national insurance, VAT or income tax. But that leaves a whole host of other taxes which Keir Starmer could touch. One of those is that discount for taxes for single people living alone. Of course, the winter fuel payments, that's come under a lot of criticism, particularly as we now know that gas and electricity bills are going to rise over the next year thanks to Ofgem raising that cap. It's also looking likely that capital gains tax could be changed, so people could have to pay more capital gains. Keir Starmer has said that those with the broadest shoulders will be the ones who carry the biggest burden, but we don't yet have a definition of exactly what that means. So a lot of people are now nervously waiting for that budget on October the 30th.
Absolutely. Olivia, thanks very much. And plenty of pensioners getting in touch with us this morning saying they don't feel like they've got very broad shoulders at all. Maggie saying pensioners are under attack from the government. It's despicable. There's nothing to look forward to now in getting old. And Malcolm goes on, good morning, I'm 75. I live on £230 a week. That will go... the government have taken my winter fuel payment away, and they're now talking about stopping my 25% council tax. There was no mention of this before voting day. I will never vote Labour again. And that is just a sort of tip of the iceberg, really, in the response to that this morning.
I love when politicians use this phrase, those with the broader shoulders. I mean, what they basically mean is anybody who earns 40 grand plus a year.
Yeah, which includes lots of nurses and
just ordinary people. I mean, you know, if you feel rich on 40 grand a year, well, my respect to you, because you're not, although you'd be classified as such.
And we wonder why people are feeling more and more negative about the country. We've been talking this morning about some shocking statistics that show that people are feeling less pride in Britain and British history. But a few of you have got in touch to say this morning, Mark, I'm very proud to be British. However, I'm extremely frustrated and sad at where we are and have been for a while. We need to make Britain great again, bringing the national anthem into schools every day in assembly and at every sporting event. And Jack says, I'm 62 years old, I'm a veteran, I served for 27 years and I am very proud to be British. He says he once guarded Princess Margaret in St Kitts. Now that sounds like a good gig.
There'd be a lot of time around a swimming pool, I would have thought.
Absolutely.
Watching her swill gin. But, you know, I think a lot of people are very proud of their country. They're very proud of what they get on with. But they're not too proud of politicians and how politicians just keep grabbing money. The taxation burden in this country is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not even talking about what you pay legitimately from your pay packet. I'm talking about VAT, which is an abysmal tax. I'm talking about death duties. I'm talking about stamp duty. I'm talking about everywhere you go. Believe me, they're after your money, so you can't have it.
Well, we're going to give you some cash to try and ease some of that pain. See, the Great British Giveaway. How would you like £36,000? What's that a month?
It's £3 grand a month. But it's very, very nice, and I would love a bit of it, I have to say. Here we go.
This is your chance to win.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
With record temperatures expected this week, how do zoos keep their cooler creatures cold? Well, at Yorkshire Wildlife Park, the polar bears are enjoying a vegetable ice block.
Polar bears, they do have quite a variety of different temperatures that they naturally do find. Once they're moving off these polar ice caps, they are in the likes of down in the areas of Canada, Hudson Bay. Naturally, they were finding polar bears in 35-degree temperatures year upon year. So they are very much used to warm temperatures and heat waves as such. What you'll tend to find is they'll go for a good swim and then go for a snooze in the shade thereafter.
Not wanting to miss out, the sea lions are treated to a huge fish lolly.
In the hot weather, it's really important to give them ice because these guys, they don't drink salt water. These pools are actually saltwater pools. They actually drink fresh water. They've got 2 freshwater pools in their house, but again, being able to provide that in their outside enclosure is also really important. So offering them ice with their fish is not only enriching, but it's actually beneficial to their welfare as well.
Other animals like the lemurs will be basking in the sun, but also cooling down with frozen sweet potato.
So we've got 3 different species of lemur here. They come in all different shapes, colours, sizes, but they are native to Madagascar. Madagascar can get quite hot, understandably, so throughout the cold months here in Yorkshire, we do give them a nice heated house all year round, but especially making sure it's nice and warm in the winter for them. And it does mean that in the hot spells as well that we're able to keep our eyes on them and try and give them things that make them a bit more comfortable with that incoming hot weather as well.
The frozen food on offer here certainly has the seal of approval on what could be the hottest day of the year.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
There's an inquest getting underway today, which I think will interest a lot of people. It's into the death of a man called Steve Diamond, who's 63 years of age, and he was part of the Jeremy Kyle show, and he took his own life in 2019.
Yes, I'm not clear why it's taken so long for this inquest to come to fruition, but Charlie Peters is there for us today and can bring us up to date on why it's taken so long. Who we're expecting to hear evidence from today, Charlie?
The full inquest. There is counsel to the tribunal. There are extensive legal perspectives on several sides to take place here that will unfold over the next 5 days at this full inquest. But at the preliminary hearing held in April, the coroner here in Winchester, Jason Pegg, heard that when Mr. Diamond left the ITV studios in May 2019, he felt as though his life was not worth living. He said that he wanted to jump out of the taxi on the way home from the ITV's studios. The coroner in Winchester, Jason Pegg, previously ruled that Jeremy Kyle had called Diamond a serial liar and had told his guest he would not trust him with a chocolate button. Now, Steve Diamond, who took his life in the May of 2019, 7 days after recording a programme on the Jeremy Kyle show that was never aired. On that recording, he was taking a lie detector test about whether or not he'd been unfaithful with his former fiancée. Now, this full inquest, this 5-day inquest, will assess Mr. Diamond's interaction with the Jeremy Kyle show, also his interactions with his family and his GPs. But the counsel to the tribunal, Rachel Spearing, the barrister working with them, has said that this is not going to be a scope looking at how reality TV works in Britain. It is focused specifically on Mr. Diamond's case and his interaction with the programme, his mental state at the time, and any aftercare that ITV provided following the filming.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed. We're now talking about Labour, who are pushing on with plans to nationalise railways.
But is this really what's best for Britain? Let's get the thoughts now of the Shadow Transport Secretary, Helen Whately. Good morning to you, Helen. There are critics who say that this is about politics rather than practical solutions.
Good morning. Good to be speaking to you this morning. So we know that the railways need reforms, and when we were in government we were planning that ourselves. But I also know that what passengers really care about is mainly two things. One is about their fares and railways being affordable, and the other is about reliability, trains turning up on time. And the problem with the bill we're going to be debating in Parliament today is that it doesn't address either of those things. It's not expected to make things better for fares or for reliability. There's a risk it could make things worse. And what it really is a deeply ideological bill. It's basically saying private sector bad, public sector good, and putting the minister in charge of running train operating companies. So that could make things worse. It could be really expensive for passengers and for taxpayers. And particularly one of the things it will do is give more power to the unions, and that's something I'm really concerned about.
Now, explain that to me. Why would the unions get more power if a minister was in charge of the whole lot?
Oh, so one of the things is that over time, all of the train companies, most of which at the moment are run privately, will come into the public sector and report essentially to the minister. That's adding thousands of railway workers onto the public payroll, and we'd expect to see ministers under Labour system negotiating directly with unions. Now, we already saw ASVEF get a huge pay deal of 15, or just almost 15%, very soon after Labour came into power. Now, one of the things I'm going to be arguing for today is that what there should be is an independent pay review body like we have for teachers, like we have for nurses, like we have for the armed forces. So it's not just a matter of ministers sitting down with the unions. We know lots of Labour MPs get donations from unions, and actually we need to have a system which is better for taxpayers as well as for the workers.
I see the sense you're talking there. That's interesting.
Tell us a little bit about what's becoming a huge row, really, in terms of our suspension of some arms to Israel. Lots of party grandees from the Conservatives have come out criticising David Lammy's shock announcement yesterday. I suppose the most high-profile of those, Boris Johnson, saying that they want Hamas to win and they are abandoning Israel. But there's also been an outcry from Jews in this country, including the Labour Friends of Israel. What's your own take on their decision?
Well, I think it's really important that we stand firm in our support of Israel in their conflict with Hamas, which, of course, is a terrorist organisation. Like many people, I am concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, but we know Hamas is using people as human shields and still has Israeli hostages. And in fact, one of the problems with this announcement is one of timing. It was just a few days ago that Hamas murdered 6 hostages rather than release them. And right on the back of that is this announcement by Labour about limiting arms sales to Israel.
This legal advice was commissioned, this government review was commissioned by the previous Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Are you saying that the Conservatives, if they remained in government, would have rejected this new, fresh legal advice that they had commissioned?
Well, I haven't seen the legal advice. That's something that clearly goes to ministers. The Foreign Secretary has said that they will publish as much as they can, and we welcome that, and that's something that we would look at. I think it is important that we have a legal process, and as I said, I do recognise the concerns about civilians in Gaza and the humanitarian situation there, alongside the importance that we make sure that Israel does have a right to self-defence and must do all it can to get Hamas to release the remaining hostages, as well as working towards a ceasefire.
The former British diplomat, Lord Ricketts, has said this morning that he believes that this decision has been taken very carefully and on the basis that actually they're trying to protect the integrity of the UK's arms export trade, which obviously could be undermined if it's found to have breached international law.
Well, as I said, I think there is an important point of legal process. I haven't seen the legal advice, but what I do think is it is very important that the government makes decisions based on what is the right thing in Britain's national interest. Something I'm concerned about is that we know there's a lot of pressure on Keir Starmer and on the Labour front bench from Labour backbenchers against Gaza. I would be worried if this is just Labour caving into those backbenchers. A moment ago we were talking about the rail bill. That's highly ideological. I think that's being driven by Labour trying to keep its backbenchers and its union paymasters happy. I think it's very important on foreign affairs they do the right thing by our country, not just what's in meeting the worries of backbenchers.
Right, so just to be clear, you don't think that they've taken this decision based on the commission that was put forward by Rishi Sunak, but actually bowing to the Muslim vote?
It's something that I'm flagging is that we need to try and scrutinise, and I look forward to the government publishing as much as they can of the advice that they've been given and the details behind their decision, so that we can be assured that there is a sensible rationale for this decision, because I'm concerned that it might be something which is about the pressure from the backbenchers, but we need to see more details to know the answer.
Final word on the Tory leadership race. First person likely to be knocked out tomorrow. Do you think there might be any early pulling out, perhaps? I know Mel Stride hasn't done a big speech or a campaign launch. Do you think he might pull out before it even gets to a vote tomorrow? And in which case, do you think we could potentially see two people falling out of the race tomorrow? And if so, who do you think it might be?
Well, I don't have an inside track on what the leadership candidates will decide, but what I do know is that we have a group of strong candidates, and I'm really pleased to see the process that we've already had of leadership candidates, and many of them going around the country listening to voters, listening to members, really reflecting on the election result that we've had, and starting to set out their vision as well for the country and for the future, for what the Conservative Party should offer people. A more optimistic vision than we're hearing from Labour, for instance, which is very much talking down our economy. We want a more optimistic vision, and I want to see our leadership candidates be able to set that out so that we can all make an informed choice, that's MPs and members, when the leadership candidate process gets to that stage.
Helen Whately, Shadow Transport Secretary, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you. We've got Andrew and Nana from 9:30. Well, Andrew, what do you think of this Conservative leadership race here and the way it's shaping up?
It's not exactly setting the country alight, is it?
No.
I'm afraid.
No.
People ask me all the time who's going to win, and I say, I really don't know.
Do you think we could see a double whammy tomorrow? Because
Possibly.
I get the feeling that Mel Stride's kind of given up.
Fizzling out. No campaign launch at all. It's ironic because he was the one we saw most of during the general election campaign. He was like minister for the TV station.
But if he does drop out, say, Mel Stride would be out of the contention, then who would perhaps lose next, do you think, in the vote?
I think it's got to be possibly Kemi Badenoch.
Do you think?
With
MPs?
I actually think so, yeah. I think she's next.
Yeah, I just don't know. My hunch is Robert Jenrick's going to win it. He's not very well known to people, but he quit as immigration minister in protest at the government's chaos on immigration. So possibly him. But I did say to the Tories, nobody's listening.
No, they're not. Well, Tom Tugendhat is talking today as well.
Yeah.
So around about 10:35, sort of just before 11 o'clock, we'll be here.
Well, what else have you got, Nana? What are you getting your teeth into?
Well, this winter fuel allowance that the Labour Party is sort of trying to shimmy through without anybody voting or speaking about it, which I think is horrendous. So we will be talking about that and what needs to happen, because there are now some Labour MPs coming forward suggesting that it's not really a very good idea.
Yeah, I thought John Healey, the Defence Secretary, on the meet around this morning, looked very uncomfortable with it. He was a government minister when Gordon Brown brought it in 1997.
I think their undoing is going to be the fact it just wasn't in the manifesto. How can you come straight into power on a landslide and then one of the first things that you push through, deeply unpopularly, is something that wasn't even
alienating
discussed?
10 million pensioners. 10 million.
Also, Angela Rainey yesterday dodging questions on this
immigration
council tax.
Oh, that one. That's another one.
Yeah. Well, it makes pensioners feel betrayed, doesn't it?
It does.
All right, well, we look forward to your programme, 9:30, Nana and Andrew this morning. But that's it from Eamonn and me.
Thank you very much.
This morning. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow.
Have yourselves a good day.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Relatively humid air has been present across the UK during the last couple of days. You might have felt it. It's also been responsible for some heavy downpours. More downpours expected in places today, but eventually brighter and less humid air will arrive from the west. We start the day with a lot of cloud across England and Wales, further showery rain in places. Increasingly, by the afternoon, we'll see the heaviest downpours across East Anglia and the southeast. Hit and miss, but there will be some lively showers about. And then further west, brighter skies arrive into western England and Wales. And for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a thickening of the cloud and some showery rain here, although it will feel considerably fresher with the wind coming from the northwest. Meanwhile, those heavy showers